Hello there, everybody. How are we all? I'm very well, and thank you for asking. We're going to be doing a cheeky little bit of Normal Island tonight. Albeit we're going to be doing Normal Island, but talking virtually nothing about Britain, because Britain, for once, has had, whilst not a great week, a relatively quiet week. A not as shit as normal week. Whereas lots of other places have had very shit weeks. So we're going to be kind of talking about that. Oh, Normal Island, for those who don't know, is a show that friend of the show Curtis does on Turn Left Media. of which I've guested various times. And it's about Normal Ireland, i.e. the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland land. Yes, so, but we've had, like I say, a relatively quiet week. Whereas the rest of the world seems to have gone a little bit mental. So we're going to be talking mostly about that, I think. And then after that, I don't know, suggestions are welcome. I mean, I can just leave it if you're not interested. But I can also watch some other shit with you. I don't know. Important meme. Is there such a thing as an important meme? What is this nonsense? I don't know what this is, but okay, we'll have a look, I guess. Oh, shithouse. Shitting cock and bollocks and fuck and arse. No, that's the wrong one. Boom. What do we have here? Let's restart this, shall we?
Sincerity, I'd ask you respect mine. Well, all due respect in the most unparliamentary language. Fuck you, Deputy Stagg. Fuck you. I apologise now for my use of unparliamentary language.
That is most unparliamentary language.
It is most unparliamentary language, and I now withdraw it and apologise for it. But I'm outraged that someone dares question my sincerity on this issue. I don't like what has to be done, but I'm going to take the responsibility and get it on the chin and get the unpopularity and lose my seat, because it's the only thing we can do to get this country out of the state we're in. I firmly believe that.
Deputy Costello.
I firmly believe that. And you respect my view. I didn't cause the economic mess. I didn't take money from developers or leave the. I didn't.
Deputy
That's the point. The point is, we are screwed.
I'll be honest with you, mate. Dinging your little bell doesn't seem to be having the effect that you wanted from the situation. Just going ding, ding, ding. It doesn't, like, it's not getting you to where you want to go. You know what I mean? I don't think the people around you respect the authority of the little bell. Which, I mean, again, it's very unparliamentary when you think about it.
The point is, we are screwed as a country because of the wrongdoing of others. I respected your.
Anyway, so that's thank you for some action from the dial there. Gotta love that. Anyway, I don't know why Curtis hasn't gotten back to me yet. That's very surprising. He's usually far more punctual than this. Usually I am the one who is a tad late. By the way, the fact that I'm not on camera right now is because I need to, like, you can't split the thing, so you'll see me in a second, basically. If you were missing my visage. Oh, my hair is absolutely mental. I brushed it 2 minutes ago. How the fuck can it be that mad? Right, my name is Kevin Logan. And I approve this message. Audio. High definition audio device. I think. I don't know. No, not stream cam. No. No. There we go. Virtual background. No, we do not need that. Beautification. Fuck off. Right, go on. Join the broadcast.
That was last her. There he is. Mm-hmm. Here's the man.
Hello.
I'll do it for you now quickly.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello. How are you?
I don't know what you do. Well, that voice is...
Sorry, I don't know where that came from.
It was mean. It felt like he was doing something rude then.
I wasn't. You have to make it out that I did something rude. It was endearing.
Yeah, because that's the voice. When I think, well, what would someone want to be sounding like? It's definitely like, I don't know, Alan Partridge nerd, I think, is how I would describe that. By the way, hello to Sneak Crit. That's very, very small writing there.
I'm so sorry. Sneak Crit.
Sneak Crit, there you go. Hello.
You okay? Yeah, we've not met before.
I don't think we have, no, but it's lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too. I love your lights.
Thank you very much.
Very nice.
So gorgeous, aren't they? Brings out his eyes.
Which is good.
See?
Yeah.
Do they? Did you say?
Snarking around. Let me just check that we're okay on the transition on here. Cool. Okay, so that's your split screen. Then we've got our host.
Heaven,
And our
heaven,
guest.
heaven. Hello, Kevin Logan audiences.
Hello.
That's like the thing in Peep Show where it's like, "Hi, I'm Michael Clark." And then you go, "Hi, you're Michael thing." Hi, Heaven. We'll start the show that way. Okay, right. Are you guys ready to go?
Yes.
Yes.
Happy?
Terribly
All right.
happy.
Don't be too happy.
Oh.
Okay, let's go live.
Okay, I am now muted. They cannot hear me. So I will just take my headphones off so that I don't need to hear it either. 1 second, chat. Yes, don't forget everybody, if you wanted to, you could help me out in the following ways. You can hit the follow button, you can subscribe, you can subscribe with Amazon Prime, you can give subs to the community. You can do bits messages. No, I know you can hear me, I meant for you to hear me. Anyway, yes, you can do what do you call it? You can sub with Amazon Prime. You can give subs to the community. Actually, I need to turn that fucking notification noise off because I'm going to be doing my journalisms. So you know, there's that. Anyway, yeah, you can do bits messages. You can do. We can still hear them talk, but like the stream can't hear the behind the scenes. So we're still getting like the backstage noises, if you will. Anyway, you can do bits messages. 200 bits and more gets you a text to speech once it's back on, but I'll read it out anyway. Whatever. Patreon, PayPal. Blue Sky, TikTok, Discord, Instagram, Threads are things. If you're on YouTube, hello YouTube. You can hit the subscribe button. You can hit the subscribe button. You can do super chats if you wanted to, and I'll read those out at some point later on. You can become a member for 99 pence. You can give memberships to the community.
I never get tired of it. Every time it comes on, I'm like, fuck you, BBC.
Did I top Kira chats? I tried to be as rude as Kira cat. Well, I don't mind you topping her. That's fine if she's into that. I don't know, but as long as you're not obviously a bisexual black man, because she's not into that. That's not her thing. Also, don't celebrate terrorist groups on the timeline, because that doesn't end well for anybody. That's very much a FAFO situation. Keir Starmer is such a div. Look at him. What an absolute slab of shite.
dance is great. Good.
Okay, we'll turn it back up.
Brother,
We'll turn it back up now. Because we're about to go live. It's gonna be sexy.
Nearly ready.
Okay, normal, Kev. Be normal. We can do this. Right, I'm unmuting.
Welcome to Normal Island. It's Friday. We're approaching the end of the week. I hope you've had a very good one. And tonight I'm once again joined by the very good friend of the show, Kevin Logan. Give us a smile or maybe a wave. I didn't get either, but that's good enough for me. A big thumbs up. Kevin, how are you doing?
Extraordinarily well. All the better for yourself.
Oh, God. You warms my heart so much. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I love your insights, but I also just love having you on. Just being in your presence makes me happy. Anyway, we've got some serious political stories to discuss tonight. These are what we will be discussing. Israeli football fans in violent clash in Amsterdam. Germany passes law to restrict public funding to critics of Israel. Yoav Gallant fired by Benjamin Netanyahu. And Liberals are learning all the wrong lessons from the Trump victory. As always, keep those comments coming in. About halfway through, we'll be reading them out. And if you haven't already, hit that like button. The algorithm really likes that, and we just do what the algorithm says. Anyways, on to our first story. Israeli football fans clashed with pro-Palestinian protesters after the Europa League match between Maccabi Tel Aviv and Ajax. Now, most of the media seem to be reporting that the Israeli football fans were being the ones attacked. This has actually prompted the Holocaust Memorial Day Trust to put out a statement. We are deeply alarmed and unequivocally condemn the anti-Semitic attacks against Jewish football fans in Amsterdam on Thursday evening. These abhorrent acts, which resulted in multiple injuries, are a stark reminder of the ongoing threats faced by Jewish people worldwide, even in public spaces. Occurring on the weekend of the Kristallnacht anniversary, these attacks serve as a grave warning that the fight against anti-Semitism remains urgent and vital. Now, the statement automatically assumes they were all Jewish, and that's why these attacks happened. Now, despite the entire media painting the Israeli football fans as the victims, what they don't report is what led up to these clashes. Now, this is a video of Israeli football fans chanting, and I quote, "Let the IDF win to fuck the Arabs." Now, according to Al Jazeera, tensions were bubbling for a couple of days, in which they also reports that the antagonism came from the Israeli football fans. Reporting from Amsterdam, Al Jazeera's Step Vassen said the clashes were the result of a build-up in tensions over a few days. Hundreds of supporters of Maccabi Tel Aviv came to Amsterdam, held a very vocal rally in the main square before the incident, waving Israeli flags, and also took down a Palestinian flag, she said. On Thursday, police said on social media that they were being particularly vigilant in the wake of politically charged incidents, including the tearing down of a Palestinian flag from a building. The Israeli fans instigated the violence after arriving in the city and attacking Palestinian supporters before the match, an Amsterdam City Council member said. They began attacking houses of people in Amsterdam with Palestinian flags, so that's actually where the violence started, Councilman Jazi Veldhuizen told Al Jazeera on Friday. As a reaction, Amsterdammers mobilised themselves and countered the attacks that started on Wednesday by the Maccabi hooligans. Now, none of us are surprised that the media have once again weaponised anti-Semitism, have allowed the narrative that Jewish football fans were attacked unchallenged. Kevin, again, no surprise from the media, but what do you make of the Holocaust Memorial Day Trust getting involved and even mentioning the Kristall Nacht?
I personally think it's an absolute disgrace that they would dare invoke a genuine example of genocidal, brutal hatred and violence, especially in the home city of Anne Frank, in Amsterdam itself. The mood music of that couldn't be more poignant, to defend far-right hooliganism. And that's exactly what this is. Maccabi Tel Aviv, alongside the fact that Israel should have been sanctioned in the way that Russia has by being kicked out of international sport. Indeed, we have historical precedent for that with apartheid South Africa and how that can work. So that should have happened already. But regardless of that, the actual individual club itself has a past of doing this. This is what happens. We saw in the round of 16 game in the same tournament last year, they played Olympiakos in Piraeus, which is a suburb of Athens. And they attacked Arab fans there too. They deliberately go after and attack Arab people and Palestinian sort of supporters and try and antagonise in that way. They turned up as guests in a foreign city in Amsterdam, decided to be violent, politically charged all the way through, sing unbelievably genocidal songs, damage local property, and indeed try and take away people's freedom of rights, their freedom of speech by taking down their flags. Then inside the stadium, what is virtually unreported on, it seems, is that Ajax were holding a 1 minute silence before the game to honour the dead of the recent floods in eastern Spain, during which the entire minute was ruined by jeering and booing from the Maccabi Tel Aviv away supporters. They had been attacking and verbally accosting Amsterdammers in the street all day. So, I mean, for me, this is an issue of FAFO. Fuck around and find out. This is what happens. No one is suggesting that violence is the necessary go-to in all of these instances, of course, terms of service and all of that jazz. But ultimately, if you're going to act in this way, you can't be surprised when people defend themselves. To put it in terms that Zionists might understand, Amsterdam has a right to defend herself.
Very true. I'm sure there were some people there who were anti-Semitic. I mean, people need to know that people will jump on certain things for bad reasons, but the media has been completely one-sided. If the media were to be fair, at least show the other side. Now, I don't think it's an equilibrium, right? I don't think it's there was just as many anti-Semites there as there were pro-Palestinian people. They were just Israeli hooligans from a football match.
Yeah.
I mean, how many British football teams go abroad, go to Europe, and our fans, destroy things and beat people up? And to be fair, we're rightly called out for it. But this time it's Israel, so the media essentially get behind them and say, oh, it's clearly anti-Semitic, even for the Memorial Day Trust to get involved.
I mean, that's
really insane.
That's the really grotesque element of this. You would expect the media to come out and do their usual bullshit because essentially they're bought and paid for shills of Zionist interest. That's all that's there, right? But the Holocaust Memorial Trust should have something more to them than this. They should understand the dynamics of what's going on here. Again, not to harp on a point too much, but this is the city of Anne Frank, and Ajax is a team that has a strong traditional link with the Jewish community of the Netherlands, in the way that various other clubs around the world, Tottenham Hotspur here in the United Kingdom, for instance, they're thought of as a traditionally Jewish club, even though, of course, most of the supporters are not themselves Jewish. They do have a strong link to that football club. So the idea that this is some sort of Nazi-run hellscape is clearly and obviously ridiculous. And again, we have to go back to the sort of poison at the heart of Israeli society. It was reported that in the Jerusalem Post 3 days ago that Mossad agents would be travelling with the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. Now, far be it from me to ever gain in any kind of conspiracy here, but we know that Mossad have acted as agent provocateur in situations that they know will allow Israel to play the victim.
And this does when they've been over here when there's been pro-Palestinian marches.
Exactly, yeah.
And they've done it, and that's not a conspiracy. I mean, sometimes they just admit it, like, but it's antagonism to. And would you say this? What happened in Amsterdam is almost by design. You want it to look like this because then they can say, oh, look, the whole world is against Jewish people, therefore Israel has to engage in genocide because it's Israel versus the entire world.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, it's pretty obviously the case that this is sort of a staged event, as it were, because Israel had planes on standby to go to the Netherlands from Israel in order to pick these fans up. Yeah. Okay, so this is what they wanted to happen. They once again have interfered with what should have been a peaceful event, made it violent in order to play the victim and therefore cover up the fact that they are still ongoing the genocide of the Palestinian people. In fact, this is very much, I think, to deflect from the fact that they literally announced 3 days ago that northern Gazans would not be allowed their right to return to their homes. So it was a land grab. It was never about hostages. It was never about defeating the evil Hamases or anything. It was about stealing land. It's about Zionism doing what Zionism has always done.
That was supposed to be a conspiracy theory. When we called it out ages ago. People have been calling it out for years. It's about land grab, and they're only pushing people to other areas of Palestine down south, by the way, and then they bomb those so-called safe routes out. So they can land grab, and they say that's a conspiracy. Some people say it's blood libel. Well, they're literally saying it themselves now.
Yeah. Also, accusations of blood libel would be far more seriously taken if you weren't in the streets singing about the extent to which you have killed Arabs and you want to continue to kill Arabs. Like, are you not blood libeling yourselves there, Maccabi Tel Aviv?
Possibly. Now, the hysteria around anti-Semitism, it's creating a culture of fear. I know me and you have spoken about this many times, but we get new viewers all the time. What Zionism is doing, what the media is perpetuating, this is harmful to Jewish people because this story concerns football fans. Not every Israeli is Jewish, but when we do that, it makes them feel like that every Jewish person is facing an existential threat. Not to say that they're not facing threats and racism, they are, but it's making Jewish people scared day in, day out. It's not standing up for Jewish people, is it? No,
and of course, and I think we'll probably get into this with the story also from just across the border in Germany next, I think. But the linking of all Jewish people to the heinous crimes of the Israeli state is itself an anti-Semitic trope, which used to be the exclusive regard of Nazis to try and say, look, all of the Jews want to do X, Y, and Z. Whereas now they're literally just openly saying, if you oppose Israel, you're opposing all Jewish people. So you're intrinsically linking the fate of Jewish people who have no connection to Israel, have never been there, have no interest in going there, and oppose the actions of the IDF with the IDF, with the kinds of filth like Benjamin Netanyahu, right? That puts Jewish people at risk. That undermines the seriousness with which Jewish culture should be taken around the world, and endangers Jewish people in situations that needn't be there, and, as you said, makes them scared constantly of things that, whilst there's certainly an element of it, anti-Semitism has been on the rise in a very serious way, and again, we'll talk about Germany shortly. But one reason that, again, undermines this is things like the not hope, not hate. the group in America anyway, who have put down
Yes,
Israel protests as anti-Semitic actions intrinsically. So you're
even just questioning Israel. Can
You're
sometimes be
overinflating
considered
the
anti-Semitic.
numbers by which this is being judged, which you needn't do because there is already an increase in anti-Semitism. That's a serious thing that needs to be taken seriously. But you undermine that seriousness when you have incidents like this where it's clear and obvious that the Zionists are at fault and were the aggressors, but you put it down as anti-Semitism.
I think you're referring to the ADL,
The Anti-Defamation League. There we go.
Yeah, so a story came out which basically said they're going to change their definition of anti-Semitism, which includes criticisms of Israel or anti-Israel marches. Now, of course, Israel is not a protected state; it's a state, not a protected characteristic. It's a state. That's being included in anti-Semitism, and then they say, "Oh, it's on the rise, massively on the rise." It is on the rise, but it's not on the rise on the level they're claiming it is, and. You know, we've gone over this 1,000 times. I think we are going to move on to the next story, but it basically continues the same theme. So, let's move on. A resolution was passed in Germany where public funding will be restricted to critics of Israel, and this is supposedly fighting anti-Semitism. On Thursday, MPs in the German Bundestag voted for the resolution entitled "Never Again is Now: Protecting, Preserving and Strengthening Jewish Life in Germany," which ties funding for cultural and scientific projects to support for Israel in several ways. Though legally non-binding, the resolution implies the threat of future legal action by German federal and local authorities against those who fall foul of it. The resolution says that recipients of state funding must not question Israel's right to exist, must not participate in boycotts of Israel, and must subscribe to the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance working definition of anti-Semitism, a definition that is widely perceived, including by its own author, as chilling criticism of Israel. Of course, this resolution is highly controversial and has been attacked by over 100 Jewish artists. In August, a group of over 100 Jewish artists, writers and scholars living in Germany published an open letter expressing their outrage at the proposed resolution. The signatories claim the resolution would not protect but would in fact endanger Jews in Germany by synonymizing them with Israel, a notorious anti-Semitic trope. The group added that the resolution would ironically end up targeting large numbers of non- and anti-Zionist Jews, placing thousands of Israeli and other Jewish academics and artists under suspicion by the German state. Pretty much what we were just saying then. Now, if Germany paid attention to the IHRA, they would know that one of the definitions of anti-Semitism is conflating Jewish people and Israel, which is exactly the point those artists have made. Kevin, why do you think Germany are making this move? I mean, why have they been so behind restricting freedoms? They've clamped down on pro-Palestinian protests. What are they trying to prove?
That they're not Nazis. It's simple historical guilt. And understandable historical guilt. I'm glad that there is an element within German society that thinks that they have something to make up for, because I think in some historical senses they sort of do. There is a debt that I don't think can ever be truly repaid, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try, sort of deal. But unfortunately, this is the exact opposite way of going about that. When they say never again means now, they don't seem to realise that they are helping never again happen right now. They are literally making another genocide take place, but because it's over there, they sort of don't care. It's a really grotesque twisting of what never again was supposed to be about. The German state, through its guild, has gone so far as to clamp down on the freedoms of its own people in a way that unfortunately sort of echoes to some extent the authoritarian governments for which they are feeling guilty in the first place. This is a non-binding resolution, partly because, as certain German academics have stated, this is clearly unconstitutional. The German constitution allows for freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of conscience, and that includes up to and including boycotting countries if they so speak. The idea that this would ever be legal is ridiculous, and I'm glad that it's not going to be sort of enforced, but that's not the point. It's the chilling effect, isn't it? It's to say to people, this is an unacceptable position to have. And if you do so, there are going to be massive repercussions for you. And not for any good reason, but to defend a country currently doing a genocide because you in the past did a genocide. That's absolutely fucking unacceptable.
I mean, if you have to so-called protect someone's freedoms, a community, i.e. Jewish people, but you have to do it to restrict on other people's freedoms. You have to, I mean, when I'm going back to the quote, it's saying, you must not question Israel's right to exist.
Yeah.
Even if you agree that they should exist, you're allowed to say in a democratic society that I don't think they should exist. They're saying you cannot participate in boycotts of Israel.
That's just ridiculous.
I mean, I also don't understand how you're going to really legislate against
Well,
that.
exactly, that's the thing.
Unless it's going to be targeted group BDS groups. But like, if I were to know that one business is, is getting money or sending money to Israel and is actually complicit in it, and I choose not to go to this restaurant, is there going to be a police officer saying, "Sir, why did you not go to this restaurant? Is it because it's Israeli owned?"
Exactly.
I mean, how are they going to legislate this? How are they going to do it in practice?
It can't be enforced. And again, that's sort of not the point, is it? Other than forcing you to have to buy Israeli goods and services, which again, I'm not entirely sure how that would even be possible, but it would obviously be unconscionable and unworkable. It's not the point. The point is to chill criticism of Israel, which is really disgusting, because if the people behind this were very serious about tackling the rise of anti-Semitism in Germany, they would not be going after pro-Palestinian protesters. They would, for instance, curb the neoliberal excesses that have left the people of Eastern Germany, what was formerly the German so-called Democratic Republic, completely in the dust, right? They've been left behind, abandoned, economically destroyed, and left to fester. And in that swamp, monsters arise. We know this. This is how fascism comes to be. And yet the neoliberals, the very people who are responsible for the actual rise of real, virulent, nasty anti-Semitism in the forms of the Alternative for Deutschland, the AfD party, and various other even more horrific movements, are the very people now lecturing us on we're being anti-Semitic. No, you are the ones leading to the rise of actual anti-Semitism and a return to the Nazism that you feel so guilty about in the first place. So how about you stop shitting on the working class of Germany and forcing them into the arms of the very fascists who are going to make Nazism rise again?
And of course, the German government has collapsed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and it's looking like the far right is making gains once again. So
yeah, because
why aren't they talking about them? Why are they not tackling them?
Well, because that's the point, isn't it? The neoliberals don't give a shit about that. If they wanted to tackle actual anti-Semitism, they'd stop being neoliberals, because it's that neoliberalism which has hollowed out the economic base of parts of Germany that have led to the rise of the AfD. And acknowledging that would be acknowledging their own fault and complicity in that situation. And they're never going to do that. They're never going to turn against their rich donors. They are what they are. They're neoliberal assholes, for want of a better phrase, and so they're just going to allow that situation to fester. And each election we see the encroachment of the AfD in both state elections and in the federal government. And regardless of whether this new election happens in January or in 6 months or wherever, Scholz's party will lose significantly. Various other of the coalition parties will probably lose. Hopefully you're going to see an increase in things like the Greens, because there needs to be a left-wing alternative and pushback against this, but ultimately the AfD will encroach on this further and further. And it's become such an issue that they can't ignore it any longer, surely, and yet they're going to fucking try.
Well, when we come on to the Democrats later on, they are going to demonstrate that you absolutely can ignore it, or try to ignore it, even in the face of something so obvious. Now, many people attacked Owen Jones when he said that Germany is overcorrecting for the past. Is what you just said. Yeah. But it's strange, because backing a fascist movement, which is Zionism, that's not an overcorrection. It's just a continuation of Germany and fascism working together. So Owen Jones is completely correct, and you say it too. It's the guilt from the past, and that guilt is good. But they're using that guilt to then reinforce the same thing they've always done.
Yeah. Also,
It's,
it's always funny the degree to which the Owen Jones derangement syndrome has taken over some people's brains. There is no issue they won't turn into Owen Jones as a monster. Literally, you could the goat herding in Uzbekistan. Oh, it's Owen Jones's fault. You know, they're crazy.
I mean, did you see the It's slightly off topic. Did you see the new European attack Owen Jones because he was critical of Kamala Harris's Israel-Palestine policy, and obviously he called out a lot, and they were trying to blame him for he was apparently part of the reason why she lost. I didn't know he had that much influence. If he had that much influence,
Wow.
I'm pretty sure we'd have socialism today.
Well, one would think so, certainly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's obviously patently nonsense. The reason that she lost in places like Michigan was because of her policies. Places that had large Arab Muslim populations, and when I say large, it's relative, of course. It was still talking, south of 10%. But even so, they did unbelievably poorly, which is not surprising. No one wants to vote for a genocide. Even those of them that did had to hold their nose and do so, and probably felt dirty having to do so, because there's the utilitarian calculus that whilst Harris is bad, Trump is going to be worse, and we are going to see that, unfortunately. No one wants to vote for that. Ultimately, the reason that Kamala Harris lost, and we'll get onto this shortly, is partly down to Kamala Harris and partly down to Joe Biden, as well as a number of other factors, of course.
Oh, we certainly will get onto that conversation. But we're going to move on. But before we go on to our next story, I just want to say, if you like to support Turn Left's growth, then please share this video, spread the word to friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Now, as I've said many a times, unless you're a new viewer, there's 5 of us working as volunteers. We have a producer in the background right now. There's me and there's a couple of others who rotate our positions. But our goal is to one day make this our full-time work. So, if you're able to, please visit turnleftmedia.co.uk/support, where you can contribute monthly on our Patreon or make a one-off donation. Your support will help us upgrade equipment, create more ambitious content, and ultimately build a dedicated studio. So, the plan is to create a socialist media alternative together. Thank you so much to everyone who's watching. I think we're going to take a look at some of our comments. Let's see what you've got in store for us. Hakan, I mean, my screen's a bit too small. I can't see it. Hakan Ozalan, not shocked. Oh, with a €5 super chat. Thank you very much. Not shocked, not surprised about the media's anti-Semitism spin. It's like even when they attack brown people on European soil, they get a pass. Precisely. I mean, there's no bigger victim in people's eyes in the media than is for the Jewish community, and they are a victim, but so is everybody else. And I think that's when we get into the conversation about the hierarchy of racism. But it's not even about anti-Semitism; it's about anti-Israel sentiment, and they're conflating the two.
Yeah.
FSM is the dog. FIFA sanctioned Russia, but not Israel. Go figure. Exactly what Kevin said. We should be boycotting these Israel's cultural institutions. I find it absolutely unconscionable that Israel's committing a genocide, yet they're playing football.
Yeah.
No,
it's absolutely unacceptable. Let alone the geographic situation that they're not in Europe, so why the hell are they even playing as part of the European qualification? Which is a rather more philosophical point, I suppose. But yeah, they should have been sanctioned. I was all for Russia being removed from both World Cup and European Championship qualifications, as well as the domestic and continental tournaments. And I think that should happen to Israel as well. I would also argue that I think it should probably happen to Hungary, given its fascist government as well. But, that's a broader topic, I suppose.
Edward Sexby, so the way of getting over fascism is to introduce fascistic measures to protect a country practicing fascist policies. It's precisely that, which is why when we say Germany feels like it's overcorrecting or they're guilty, but they're not overcorrecting, they're doing the same thing. It's not that they've gone far the other way. They're doing the same thing by backing fascistic movements, and Zionism is a fascistic movement. But
I mean, you say that, but there's definitely an element of this, because the connection between leftism and football in Germany. There's a club called St. Pauli, which is based in the city of Hamburg, which is a very well-known leftist, and I mean properly leftist, or football club. Very strong anarchist and communist tendencies throughout its football club. Literally, they fly flags of Che Guevara at home matches and stuff. It's really out there stuff. And even there's been like a split in the fandom on the basis that in Germany, the left are much more pro-Israel because of that historical overcorrection and not wanting to be seen as anti-Semitic and all of that. And the international fandom of people going, look, what the fuck? You're supposed to be leftists and you're supporting the country doing the genocide? That's mad. So there is definitely a paralysis within German society when it comes to the issue of Israel, because they don't want to be, asked like, oh, why are you being exactly like your granddad?
No, it's absolutely true. German leftists are quite a lot of them are horrendous on the issue.
Yeah, no, it's a real problem. Yeah,
Carmack MCC. As long as the Greens don't get too co-opted like the German Greens. I mean, people accusing the Greens of doing that already with their stance on NATO, which, I mean, for me, call me a lib, but I'm like, it's. I feel like talk about other issues for now. Don't go fighting on NATO right now when we're quite an authoritarian country as it is. You've
got 5 MPs. Whether or not to join NATO is not an issue you even need to talk about.
Precisely. So, but I mean, I'm assuming you're meaning more to do with foreign policy, I guess, and not in terms of NATO, but maybe to do with Israel, Palestine. I'm not sure, but there's always a chance, because I'm very skeptical of a lot of Green parties worldwide. I do feel like we have probably one of the best in the world. But yeah. Any other comments?
Free Palestine.
It's Free Palestine. Yes.
That's my comment.
One I completely agree with. So, let's move on to our next story. So, Yoav Gallant has been fired by Benjamin Netanyahu. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has fired his defense minister Yoav Gallant, a figure widely considered by Israel's international allies to be a brake on the far-right elements of the country's coalition government, prompting protests around Israel. Netanyahu said in a video statement late on Tuesday that significant gaps on handling the battle in Gaza had emerged. At the height of a war, complete trust is needed between the Prime Minister and the Defence Minister. In recent months, that trust between me and the Defence Minister was damaged, he said. The move prompted protests across the country. We actually have some of that footage of the protest now.
Sorry, I should have messaged to say that the chat was done, but the chat was done.
I'm here tonight because the government is again failing us. In the middle of a war, they are really firing a minister that is the only minister that we thought he cares. He cares for the people that are abducted in Gaza, and he cares for the soldiers, and he really cares for the country.
Likud party member and current foreign minister Israel Katz is to be the replacement. Kevin, I'd like to get your initial thoughts on this move from Netanyahu.
Clearly Gallant was going to be something of a check on some of the excesses of the Netanyahu government. He was one of the very few senior politicians in the coalition who spoke out against his judicial reforms, which were, when I say judicial reforms, he wanted to nerf the Israeli judiciary so that he would be essentially immune from prosecution for his many and varied corruption crimes. So the fact that he had some semblance of principle there meant he was always going to kind of clash to a degree with Netanyahu. But I do have to somewhat push back on the wording of the article, and indeed much of the press on this. When they say he was an curb on the excesses of the far right on this, he is the far right on this as well.
Precisely.
He's not like this. He's some like misunderstood liberal in the sea of fascists. No, he's just the tiniest shade less fascist than the other fascists who are the fascist government of Israel. He is a genocidal Zionist freak. That's what he is. So no one needs to feel sorry for him personally, but this is clearly an attempt by Netanyahu to stamp out any semblance of independence from the war cabinet, and to further the Zionist claims over northern Gaza, and indeed to further their expansionist intent in southern Lebanon as well.
I mean, I agree with the wording. In fact, in my script, I write about that. I mean, in that paragraph, it states that the international allies think that Gallant was a break on the far right. I mean, yes, he is the far right, and he's hardly done much to restrict Netanyahu. I mean, he's used legal procedures, okay, but he hasn't stopped the hundreds of thousands of Palestinians who've been killed. So I think we can safely assume that Netanyahu thinks he's being restrained, and this new appointment means it's only going to get much worse, especially now with Trump being in the White House from January.
Yeah, I mean, this is undoubtedly timed with a certain amount with that in mind, because he knows he's going to get absolute carte blanche. We know this. Sheldon Adelson's widow, literally in the lead up to the election, it was discussed with Trump that her financial support was absolutely predicated on Trump acceding to the full annexation of the Gaza Strip. So that's what we have to look forward to. That's what is undoubtedly going to become US policy and indeed Israeli state policy. Because again, it was never about hostages, it was never about defeating terrorism, it was about land grabbing, it was about expansion. But yeah, in what way can Gallant say that he did actually hold back the Netanyahu government? I mean, what would he have done without that being held back? Was he going to invade the moon? Like, what was left for him to do exactly?
Precisely.
Like, if this is him being restrained, God only knows what he's going to be like off the leash, I suppose.
Well, which is probably what we're going to see now, because it is obviously Yoav Gallant gone, but again, I refer to Trump again. Trump is far worse than this issue, and he's now going to be the most powerful man in the world, backing Israel. I do want to get your thoughts on the video we had of the protest. Now, of course, they're not pro-Palestine protests. I mean, they were singing Yoav Gallant's praises. But what does it say that even people who are on board with the project essentially are now angry at Netanyahu for this? I mean, what do you think's there? What do you think's going through people's minds?
It's not massively surprising. We saw earlier on during the war when Netanyahu basically abandoned all chances of actually getting hostages back. They were literally offered a deal. Stop the war and we'll hand the hostages back. And he said, nah, fuck that noise. And carried on doing his thing. And there were massive protests in the street. Most of whom are Zionists. Most of Israeli society is unfortunately Zionist. It is the very much the rot at the core, the cancerous tumour which eats away at the soul of that nation. Most of those people are Zionists, but they actually don't like Benjamin Netanyahu, who's a phenomenally unpopular man, and literally one of the key underwritten parts of this entire affair is that this has gone on as long as it has because Benjamin Netanyahu is looking after himself and his wife to an extent. Because as soon as this war ends, he stops being Prime Minister and he goes to jail for his crimes. So he's just keeping this going. He's just keeping this going longer and longer and longer so that he can find some way to get diplomatic immunity.
Yeah.
That's all that's taking place there. He's killing hundreds of thousands of people just to avoid justice for his crimes.
I mean, it's clear that his facade isn't working, as you've described, as we've seen in the footage there. And Netanyahu is unpopular, so people aren't buying into the idea that everything he's doing is in the interest of national security. But then that to me then says, well, if you know he's doing this to prolong the war, why aren't you protesting earlier? I mean, I suppose they have. They
have, but unfortunately, the Israeli state has a way of turning the fascism inward, because that's what always happens, of course.
True, yes.
We've seen with the very noble Orthodox community in Israel, who've, not all of them, of course, but a great many, who have campaigned vociferously within Israel against the occupation and against the IDF and the Israeli government's actions, and they've been brutally suppressed by the authorities. Because again, this is not about defending Jewish people, it's about defending Zionism. Zionism is the cancer upon Judaism. It's as simple as that. It's a cancer upon the Jewish communities around the world and in Israel. If you oppose in any respect the ultra-Zionist push, they will use any and all methods, up to and including Mossad subversion, in order to destroy you. Because again, they don't mind hurting Jewish people if it helps Zionism.
Sorry, just checking my mic there because I've had people saying it's a bit quiet. I've turned myself up. Hopefully that's better. I'm apparently on full volume, but I've got my own control.
Yeah, I think it's on Kevin's side just a little bit loud. I don't know if it's that noise balance that you need to have on.
I'll just move further back from my microphone.
That might work.
That might work. I was going to ask you kind of a hypothetical then. Had Kamala Harris won, okay? I know that Joe Biden said he is himself said he is a Zionist.
Yes.
I don't know whether Kamala has actually said, I am a Zionist. I mean, she's obviously been complicit. But an alternative timeline, Kamala Harris is president, and you're getting more and more people unhappy with Benjamin Netanyahu, more and more protests. Could there have been a slight inflection point there where the US could have potentially used that and exploited that sort of hole within the Israeli government to try and curb them a little bit? I mean, I don't believe that the US State Department wants Israel to do what they're doing. I think they're complicit.
Yeah.
I don't think they care enough, but I don't think they want to, as in Trump wants that to happen. So could have that been a real change there?
I think so. The problem with actually drawing that comparison when eventually Trump gets in and starts doing this stuff is that we can only compare it to a hypothetical of what Kamala Harris might have done. So it's less concrete than we would, I suppose, ideally like. But I think there's no doubt that whilst I don't think she's ever really called herself a Zionist, that's a distinction without a difference. She has actively supported the Zionist cause. She's been the vice president for Genocide Joe, so I don't really care whether she calls herself that or not. She fundamentally is one. But I think, like you say, the US State Department don't want this because it's embarrassing. It's in fact incredibly difficult on a diplomatic level for them to have to negotiate this. So what I think would have happened was you would have seen behind the scenes moves from the United States to try and install, I mean, it's going to be another Zionist and another piece of shit, but a piece of shit who doesn't have a personal vested interest in keeping the war going in order to not be in jail, and have them replace Benjamin Netanyahu as Prime Minister and then come to some sort of arrangement, because this at the very least is a thorn in the side for America, because it makes the idea of international rules-based order so ridiculous. There's no way we can sit here and say to finger wag at Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping or anyone else about international law, whilst at the same time going, no, Israel has carte blanche to just like slaughter children and stuff. That's fine. You know, I mean, it's ridiculous.
You hit the nail on the head. It's like they're not the US State Department and the current administration. Yeah, they don't want Israel to do what they're doing. Not really out of care of the Palestinians, but it is a thorn in the side. They're continually trying to make excuses for Israel, and it's making the US look like hypocrites.
Yeah.
The difference, though, is that once again, Trump is fully behind this. So it almost feels like, I mean, it's probably well timed actually that Yoav Gallant went with Trump winning. Actually, it's more than likely, so I guess it doesn't really make a difference. But you could say if this wasn't timed and this happened, it just so happens that Trump now wins. Again, these are all hypotheticals, but I did find that quite interesting. I think we are going to move on to our final story, though. Sticking with the US. Now, many people were shocked at the results of the US election, which saw Donald Trump make a comeback, and it wasn't even close. Kamala Harris lost 15 million votes at the same time of counting, at the time of counting, compared to Joe Biden in 2020. Now, Democrats are looking inward, trying to figure out what went wrong and what they should do in the future. Unsurprisingly, they seem to be learning the wrong lessons.
Voters is Latinx, for instance, because that's the politically correct thing to do. It makes them think that we don't even live on the same planet as they do. When we are too afraid to say that, hey, college kids, if you're trashing a campus at Columbia University because you're unhappy about some sort of policy and you're taking over a university and you're trashing it and preventing other students from learning, that is unacceptable. But we're so worried about alienating one or another cohort in our coalition that we don't know what to say when normal people look at that and say, wait a second, I send my kids to college so they can learn, not so that they can burn buildings and trash lawns, right? And so on and so forth. When we put pronouns after names and say she, her, as opposed to saying, you know what, if I call you by the wrong pronoun, call me out, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. But stop with the virtue signaling.
And I also think a lot of young people are also fed up with very super progressive attitudes. I think the Democrats, Joe, going back to your initial question, and you may disagree with this, I think they need to move to the center. I think the
What does that mean, though? When you say they need to move to the center, what do they need? Are you saying that they should not
Fucking hate
support
liberals.
trans people? Like, let's just be specific, because that's what the ads are doing. So if the analysis and the immediate aftermath is they have to move to the center, I mean, what is the center? Because I disagree that is it, but I want to hear what is the center, because you're not the only person, to be clear, I've heard say that. Yeah. I've heard, the Democrats been in my phone this morning.
The center are the people I described before. I'm not even talking about an issue. We can talk about issues. The people I described before who bounce back and forth, who play between the 45-yard lines, that tends to win elections. If you look historically where it is. So that's my feeling.
So the lessons from Democrats and pundits is that they need to move towards the centre, even though they are already there, or centre-right if we're going to be more accurate. The issue is pronouns, wokery, and students protesting genocide. We also can't let him get away with saying the centre wins elections. I mean, we just had Donald Trump deploy the most right-wing campaign for decades with literal Hitler quotes, and he won. Now, at least we have one prominent figure who has a sensible response. Bernie Sanders put out a statement with a scathing attack on the Democratic establishment. It should come as no great surprise that a Democratic Party which has abandoned working class people would find that the working class has abandoned them. While the Democratic leadership defends the status quo, the American people are angry and want change, and they are right. Today, while the very rich are doing phenomenally well, 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and we have more income and wealth inequality than ever before. Unbelievably, real inflation accounted for weekly wages for the average American worker are actually lower now than they were 50 years ago. Today, despite an explosion in technology and worker productivity, many young people will have a worse standard of living than their parents, and many of them worry that artificial intelligence and robotics will make a bad situation even worse. Today, despite spending far more per capita than any other country, we remain the only wealthy nation not to guarantee healthcare to all as a human right, and we pay, by far, the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. We alone, among major countries, cannot even guarantee paid family and medical leave. Today, despite strong opposition from a majority of Americans, we continue to spend billions funding the extremist Netanyahu government's all-out war against the Palestinian people, which has led to the horrific humanitarian disaster of mass malnutrition and the starvation of thousands of children. Will the big money interests and well-paid consultants who control the Democratic Party learn any real lessons from this disastrous campaign? Will they understand the pain and political alienation that tens of millions of Americans are experiencing? Do they have any ideas as to how we can take an increasingly powerful oligarchy, which has so much economic and political power? Probably not. In the coming weeks and months, those of us concerned about grassroots democracy and economic justice need to have some very serious political discussions. Stay tuned. What a statement. Now, after he made that statement, he was then attacked by the DNC chair, Jamie Harrison. This is straight up bullshit. Biden was the most pro-worker president of my lifetime, saved union pensions, created millions of good-paying jobs, and even marched in the picket line. And some of MVP's plans would have fundamentally transformed the quality of life and closed the racial wealth gap for working people across the country. Now, granted, Joe Biden did have some good Labour policies, but it's clear it wasn't enough. And according to Harrison, he doesn't seem to agree with Bernie. Kevin, I'd like to get your response to the Democratic establishment, the pundits, and Jamie Harrison, because the issue for them isn't to move left. They're probably arguing we need to be more right-wing.
To quote the great Patrick Stewart as Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, do not trust the liberals, they will betray you. Yeah, this is exactly what these fucking people always do. They will snatch defeat from the jaws of victory and then tell you it's your fucking fault. If there is one thing that this election is it's a repudiation of centrist politics, completely and utterly. As you point out, Donald Trump ran the most far-right campaign we've seen since probably Barry Goldwater, and possibly even worse than Barry Goldwater in the 1960s, and won. And not just that, but won the popular vote. At time of recording, California still is counting, so she might just catch him, but regardless of that, it looks like he'll probably win the popular vote, which is absolutely ludicrous, but there we go. And the Democratic Party, if you look at the timeline of it, it's perfect for the argument I'm trying to make here, right? At the start of her campaign, and we'll get on to why her campaign started so late in a second, but when it started, she was making much more progressive noises. She chose in Tim Walz probably the most realistic progressive option available. She could have gone with the far more conservative Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania. She didn't. She went with a more progressive guy who's done much more progressive things as the governor of Minnesota. She matched Trump's no taxes on tipped work, which is, I mean, just standard social democratic, good, solid, working class policy, right? She was making genuinely progressive noises, and there was momentum. She'd gone from, or the Democratic candidate had gone from being like in the absolute water into being in the lead consistently all the way until Jonathan Ashworth, lol, but more importantly, less memey, but very seriously, when she got Hillary Clinton on board and Hillary Clinton's advisors. Why on earth you would possibly go to the person who lost to Donald Trump for advice on this, I'm not entirely sure. And she started rowing back towards the centre and the centre right. That's when her campaign stalled. That's when her numbers went through the fucking floor. And that's ultimately why she lost. She prayed in aid Dick Cheney's support. Dick Cheney, a man less popular than gonorrhea. And she was like, yay, he supports me. Why are you doing that? Why are you possibly fucking doing that? She refused to back trans people, which ultimately puts a lie to the idea that this is people being too woke. She wasn't fucking woke in the slightest. She said she was going to have a Republican in her cabinet. She said she was going to have a bipartisan committee to develop policy. So basically, she was saying, I am just going to be another Republican. So no wonder progressives said, fuck you then. Of course they were going to say that. And you know what? Ultimately, if you look at it, Donald Trump got 91% of self-confessed conservatives in 2020. This time round, even though she tried desperately to get conservatives, mild conservatives, edge case, people who didn't want to vote for Donald Trump but sort of were going to come over, he got 93%. So all of you, this pushing to the right, trying to get moderate Republicans on your side, ended up with him having a +2 swing in conservatives. You can't win these people over. But what you did do was alienate millions and millions of Americans by supporting genocide, by not supporting basic bread and butter policies, as Bernie Sanders outlined. You abandoned any kind of progressivism, and now you're turning around and saying, oh, it's the left wing's fault. It's not the left wing's fault. It's centrism's fault. It's neoliberalism's fault. That's who's to blame here. And ultimately, as bad as Kamala Harris's campaign was, she was hold below the waterline by the fact that she had so little time to even put it together. Joe Biden, this wizened cadaver of a human being who clearly was not fit to be running for president. He was barely fucking fit to be doing that in 2016 or 2020. He definitely wasn't in 2024. And yet decided he wanted to run, even though he'd promised he was going to be a one-term guy. He just wanted to get rid of Trump, he'd serve his one term and get out of the way. He didn't. He allowed hubris and selfishness to Trump, ironically, better reasoning. And we could have had a proper open primary, gotten the best candidate who was actually popular amongst Democratic voters, but instead we ended up with the guy that nobody wanted. One of the most unpopular presidents of ever. Look at his numbers, and yet he still wanted to run. What an absolute prick.
And ironically, if there was an open primary, Kamala probably would have won it, because she's VP. Okay.
Very possibly, but at least then you have a proper run into the election. That's the thing. You can't just establish a presidential campaign in no time. Think of the geographic landmass you have to campaign in here. You can't just magic that infrastructure out of nowhere. You can't magic $1 billion out of fucking nowhere. Although she still actually managed that, which was pretty impressive. she did reasonably well in that regard. It's just the policy that let her down, really, you know. And it's interesting that she refused to distance herself from Biden, but Biden now, having seen that she's lost, is distancing himself from his own vice president.
That's the thing. He's probably now thinking, had I stayed in the race, I would have won. Now, he would have won. I mean, he wouldn't have won, sorry. It
Not a
would have
chance.
been worse, actually.
No,
because
not a
the
chance.
guy is cognitively completely declined, so it would have been even worse of a loss. But he's probably thinking that. In fact, I think one of his spokesperson was like, well, Biden's the only one that beat Trump. I do actually want to go to that now, and I think all of us, not just liberals, but I think maybe those of us on the left are recalibrating a little bit. I had a belief that when Joe Biden won in 2020, that Trump was like a one-trick pony, right? In 2016, Hillary Clinton was just so unpopular. The campaign she ran was terrible. His campaign was very effective. He pretended to sound like a left-wing economic populist. He was talking about TPP. He was talking about these NAFTA. He was talking about these disastrous trade deals that the establishment engaged in, which ships loads of people's jobs overseas. And Hillary Clinton was quite a big proponent of it, right? That was actually quite a good campaign. Obviously, it was still very sexist and racist and whatever. But then when Joe Biden won in 2020, I was like, maybe it's because Hillary Clinton was uniquely unpopular that actually Trump is an unelectable candidate, should we say, and got a fluke and won. Watching this back now with Kamala Harris losing so badly, I actually think Joe Biden won a fluke. In fact, it was because of COVID. So Joe Biden probably wouldn't have beaten Trump in a normal election, but because of COVID, people tend to look at their conditions and their very recent memory and think what life was like, and they thought it was shit under Trump. Because actually the economy played a large role in this, inflation, for example. And the question from the Trump side is, does your life feel better now than it did before? Now, tangibly, people's lives haven't really improved, but like, on a small scale, the economy is doing better now than it was then, but people don't respond to that if it's not in a big way.
Yeah.
I think it was actually a fluke from Joe Biden. I do want to ask you, though, how much do you think that the alt media played into this campaign? I mean, the Democrats largely stuck to legacy media. Harris didn't appear on Joe Rogan, whereas Trump's campaign, they had zero ground game, by the way. Anyone who's in the US, a lot of our British pundits went over there and said he has no ground game, whereas Kamala Harris's ground game was quite impressive. His campaign was terminally online. I mean, they were talking about obscure memes, at times, and they fully embraced new media. Obviously, that worked for them. So do you think things could have been different, or at least not so much of a bad defeat for Harris, had she taken new media more seriously?
I think the Democrats and more either liberal / left people in general have to get a better grip on this, which is something I've been warning about for a long time. I mean, I would say I hate to say I told you so, but I don't. I love to say I told you so. I've been doing videos about the kind of radicalization of young men for a long time now. I've been doing this nearly a decade, I suppose, and sort of chronicling it content-free for a while, but even before then. And I could have told you this. They're lighting fires underneath very dangerous young people. I think it is a little overblown, the effect to which this has had, because if you look at the demographics, young white men did overwhelmingly vote for Trump, but not in much higher numbers than white men generally. So the radicalization of young white men narrative isn't quite right. I think what we're underplaying and underselling as a factor here is misogyny and racism. Hillary Clinton undoubtedly suffered from some of the misogyny angle of this, and Kamala Harris definitely has as well. And she has the added factor of being a black person.
Yep.
And being very racistly treated by the Trump campaign and all the rest of it, with her like, is she Indian or is she black? All that fucking nonsense at the start. That definitely didn't help, and I think you can see that in the demographic breakdown of how white people voted as opposed to other people. You can see the misogyny angle if you look at how men voted compared to how women voted. I think I saw one graph that suggested that if it was only women that voted, she'd have won 400 electoral college votes and virtually every major urban centre, urban conurbation state in the entire union. So the takeaway from this shouldn't be ignore new media, but it should also be don't overreact to it. The idea that her not going on Joe Rogan was some big thing. Joe Rogan viewers, I will just reveal this massive secret to you now, are reactionary filth. They just are. I despise you if you listen to Joe Rogan for anything other than like yucks. If you're laughing at him, that's fine. But if you're an actual, like, if you think he has anything of worth or sense to say, you're an idiot, and he's a fucking idiot. Except he's a rich idiot at the very least. You're the idiot paying for it. She didn't need to go on Joe Rogan because she wouldn't have gotten anywhere. As I pointed out, pandering to conservatives was never going to win for her, and it didn't. She pandered to conservatives for the entire second half of the presidential run that she had, and it got her nowhere. No conservatives came over to her, because they were never going to come over to her. You tried to court right-wing votes, and they didn't go anywhere. Trump basically had the exact same support that he had previously. If you look at the numbers, his vote this year was basically the same as it was 4 years ago. It was the Democratic base that fucking crumbled. 3 million
less votes, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, statistically, that's within the margin of error, really. So it's pretty level. Whereas she lost, or the Democratic candidate lost, significant numbers of votes because you weren't appealing to them. You weren't even trying to. You took their votes for granted, and they went, "Well, fuck you then," and stayed at home. That's the lesson to take away from this: is don't take people for granted. It's got nothing to do, by the way, as well. Just to push back on this weird transphobic bullshit that people are putting out there. Firstly, she didn't campaign on trans issues at all. She didn't use the pronoun thing or any of this. When she was asked about this, she just said we should follow the law. She basically threw trans people under the bus, and they still said, "Oh, they focus too much on woke stuff." It's bollocks. It's absolute bollocks. I can understand trans people being very scared right now, and indeed a lot of other people being very scared right now. But know this, the Democratic Party took you for granted, and unfortunately their malfeasance in government and their lack of giving a fuck about you at the ballot box ultimately is going to hurt you and not them, and that's a fucking damn shame. But don't let it undermine you as a person. Don't let fear consume you or become blackpilled by this. Allow that energy within inside yourself right now, which feels very negative, to become something positive. Use that as constructive energy to organise in your community, join trade unions, join local groups, anything in your local community, food banks, homeless shelters, whatever. Do something positive for your community, because it's going to be a bad 4 years. There's no doubt about it. But ultimately, we need to stop relying on what a politician is going to do and decide for ourselves what we're going to fucking do and create the world we want to exist.
I just want to say, liberals and centrists never, ever learn their lessons. They're so ideologically wedded to the centre ground or their brand of politics, they'll never learn. Now, what we're hearing from the Democratic establishment is we must blame wokeness, we must blame pronouns or trans people. That's the reason why. And I'm sick of this, because it's not just America. We get this in the UK. We had it after Jeremy Corbyn.
Yep.
Even before Jeremy Corbyn, it was, we only win elections in the centre ground. Bullshit. And I call bullshit for two reasons. One, this election in the US, as I mentioned before, Donald Trump ran the most right-wing, the most sexist, racist, disgusting campaign for decades. Maybe the worst ever. I mean, at least like Gary Goldwater, you alluded to. And he won, okay? Whenever the Conservatives in the UK pivot to the right, okay, no one ever says, do you know what? They need to become more left-wing to win elections. They never say that. It's only ever on progressive parties. And why do they say that? It's because centrists and liberals always side with the right over the left. They disagree with the left ideologically. So they're not saying you need to appeal to the centre because they think you can win. They're saying that because they hate your politics. They hate our politics.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in 2017, right, Jeremy Corbyn won 40% of the vote. He added 3 million votes. 10% of the vote from Ed Miliband, who lost a terrible defeat with 30% of the vote, right? He increased seats, he increased vote share, he mobilised people. He didn't win, but it was a hung parliament, right? Even Corbyn's biggest critics inside and outside the Labour Party for maybe about a week. Shut the fuck up. I wish they'd shut the fuck up forever, but they did it for just a week. Then obviously, there was a 2019 election, and the Conservatives won, but he still got 32% of the vote. Fast forward to 2024, Keir Starmer wins. Yes, it's a huge majority, but that was with less votes than both 2019 and 2017, and only because the Conservatives collapsed, right? There were the Liberals for a very short minute celebrated that centrism is back. Keir Starmer's revived centrism. Joe Biden in 2020 revived centrism. It is not back, right? It's gone. We are in an era of populism. Trump won on a populist campaign. Reform are rising in this country because of populism. If Keir Starmer continues the way he is governing, which he will, reform will make huge gains. I even think Nigel Farage could become Prime Minister in the future. And the centrists and the Liberals hate populism. But the only way to defeat the far right, the only way to defeat fascism is left-wing populism. That's it. They do not understand this, and they're going to lose over and over again. And if the Democratic establishment have their own way, if they ignore people like Bernie Sanders, it's going to be J.D. Vance. It's going to be someone even worse than Trump. And it's going to be all on them. Now, that is all we have time for. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you again, Kevin, for coming on. Remember, if you haven't liked the stream, please make sure you do, as it helps with the algorithm. If you want to see Turn Left grow, then make sure you share this video online, tell your friends and family about us. And if you're not subscribed, make sure you do. I'm Curtis Daly. I want to thank everyone who's been watching tonight. Before we end the show, please, if you can, consider becoming a supporter by going to turnleftmedia.co.uk/supports. You can support us on our Patreon monthly or any one-off donation. Again, I'm Curtis Daly. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back this Sunday for our debrief podcast, so tune in then, and I will see you next time.
The media support social
Mein
justice.
Führer!
It's there on social media. Thank you. Turn left.
Ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Corbyn. I upped my game on that one. Fuck yeah, baby.
Jim came in so quick on that.
What was that? With the that's there.
That's there.
Yeah. Oh,
What's his name? Zeke the Geek was like just absolutely loving it.
Was it?
Did you? I put him on while you were when you were cooking.
Yeah.
Wait, did I save it? He said, "Curtis is cooking. I'm here for seconds."
What a hero! What a fucking
Can I just say, my personal highlight, which my chat will have heard, but obviously the stream didn't hear, was Sneak during the Democrat bit. Was like, I fucking hate liberals.
Yeah.
Honestly, I had to like mute myself because I started literally belly laughing.
I do
fucking hate them.
absolutely fucking hate them, man. I don't even know what's going on with my camera now. I think it's frozen. This is good. This looks cute.
Oh shit. Just pause this. Let's end the broadcast.
Yep, true. Good shout. Didn't even think about that part. Nice.
Okay,
End.
so you've only got 90. I was just gonna say you might need to stay in for a while, but actually it's really quick. I've got local recordings on, so the whole full high quality, but you're on 96%. Yeah, sorry about that rant at the end. I was gonna write a monologue and then I didn't have time. Just want to get Jeremy again.
What? Oh.
Jeremy started talking again.
Why?
I don't know. That's there.
Oh my god, my camera's gone completely off. One sec.
I was going to write
yeah.
a monologue and I didn't have time, and I was like, I just won't do it. But then, I don't know, I think when you started cooking, Kev, the Democrats, I started getting really angry.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Yeah,
I'm going to start fucking going now because it
jealous.
Relates to us. Jealous. It relates to us though because obviously the fucking libs in our country are like, oh, we must be the centre ground is what wins. No, it fucking doesn't.
It's not the
that's not
centre. It's
true.
fucking racist. We've got to be more. Oh, guys, we're going to just have to be a little bit more racist.
A little bit
I
more
think,
transphobic,
to
a
get
little
the
bit more
vote.
racist.
We're just going to be more ineffective racists than the actual mega racists, and then people will like it. Can't even be good at racism, man. Sorry again. Sorry again.
No, centrism definitely works. That's why Chuka Ramuna is prime minister, right? Yeah.
Fuming.
Fucking melt.
Yeah. What were they
Remember
called
Chuka
again? The
Ramuna?
cocks.
Do you remember?
I think that's what they were called, yeah.
Centrism UK or whatever the fuck they were.
They were the ones that were like, oh, I'm stepping down and it's two-party political and I just want what's good for the country, and then they all just wanked each other off being liberals.
Yeah.
Turns out we've got more in common than we have.
Do you remember was it Tristram?
Oh,
Tristram Hunt.
The guy who got parachuted into Stoke-on-Trent, because obviously everyone in Stoke-on-Trent's exactly like Tristram Hunt.
Do you remember, right, when he was still in the party, he literally said Labour needs to be the party of the 1%.
Well, he got what he wanted.
And then they put him on Stoke. They were like, oh yeah, Stoke-on-Trent will be the perfect spot for that.
But he was like, oh, we need to be the party of 1% because they're where all like the smart people are and stuff, and we need to be lead by them. And I was like, you fucking kidding me? And this guy's a centrist.
But this is the thing as well, is you've got like even people in the chat today. I like being the producer because I can just be in the chat all the time. But people being like, yeah, it's the poor, uneducated working classes that we need to get on side. And it's like Reform voters were not overwhelmingly working class. Like,
no.
If you look at their income, if you look at their household ownership, if you look at their education level, there's like small percentage differences. But we're always people
middle
seem
class
to immediately go
racists,
to
more like.
yeah. It's like Brexit as well. Like people seem to just go straight for like, oh, you must be uneducated and poor, and it's like that's probably not helping.
I must say, right, if you're going to call people uneducated, you might as well just say that everyone is, because in a sense it's true, right? Most people are not politically engaged, so everyone makes dumb political decisions, whether you're a lefty or you're on the right. And I think there's this like notion of like, oh, it's
critical
the dumb
thinking.
the dumb right wingers voting for this, and okay, well, are you so fucking smart? I mean, the liberals, right, the FBPE lot were like, I remember I was for some reason I was in a fucking Siem Reap when I had this argument, but somewhere in Cambodia I found this proper like centrist dad I was speaking to. I was like, I'm a big Corbyn guy, so you must be a communist then, and then we had a row. And the reason why liberals are so fucking thick is because when obviously Brexit happened, because it was the biggest like mandate ever, right? It was a large democratic decision. You have to respect the result. And they were saying stuff like, well, it's not legally binding, so we don't have to. I'm like, are you fucking dumb? Doesn't matter if it's legally binding or not. You can't turn around to 17 million people and be like, well, we're not going to do Brexit because
Western
technically
media
it's not legally
and
binding.
Western
Like, you can't just call right-wingers dumb and then you have liberals like that.
Well, actually, that's one point I wanted to make during the thing, and I forgot because I'm a knob. But was during the talk, seeing these fucking wanker liberals in America going like, "Oh, I hope ICE deport all of the Mexicans who voted for Trump."
Yeah.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
I hope all Palestinians get killed now. Like, what the fuck?
I love the way that people get annoyed, like the way that white people get annoyed, where they're like, okay, so it's mainly white women and white men who voted for Trump. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get really angry at Palestinians.
Yeah.
Well, let's find any way to blame not the white people.
Well, I said on my election broadcast when I forget whichever liberal fucking melter was on talking about it, going on about Hispanic vote and blah blah blah, and I was like, oh, so the liberals have found at least one of the minorities they're going to blame then. So it's the Hispanics what won it. What the fuck are you talking about? Americans are like 60% white. Like, if 70% of white men vote a certain way, that person's going to fucking win. It's the white people that are the problem.
I mean, we're getting a lot of, you know, the Democrats don't need to change. Kamala Harris ran a perfect campaign. It's just that America's bad. And I'm like, okay, do you not want to win people over? Like, I get the frustration. I get being angry at voters. If you're a woman in the US and abortion was like front and center of the campaign and a majority of white women voted for Trump, I completely understand that, right? But do you want to fucking win, or do you want to say, nope, there's nothing wrong with us, nothing, it's your fault? That's a way to win over voters, by the way.
Part of the problem is Oh,
That's
go on.
what pisses. Sorry, I know. I'm not even supposed to be doing that. I'm just on.
No, go for it.
I'm just a disembodied voice now. This is what's been pissing me off, and this is what keeps pissing me off, is that people keep saying, well, they should have been more progressive. They should have appealed more to the left. And why do they always appeal to the right instead of the left? And it's because if they wanted to appeal to the left, they'd have to tangibly do things that are not capitalist.
Yeah.
And they
the
are
donors
funded
wouldn't
by
like it.
capitalists. Their system is capitalist. Like, they know that they should have done that. But why would, they chose not to? Like, it's not a case of, they're just inept and they just don't know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing, but their system is designed to only reward capitalism.
And it's even
you can't
worse.
be a capitalist and make the progress that people need to see.
Exactly, but it's even worse in this cycle because it's so nakedly obvious. Like, Elon Musk was just out there, giving away $1 million a day. Like, what the fuck? Look, you're literally just buying the election in front of the entire world, and that's just
and
fine.
Then people are like, oh, that's a bit bad.
Yeah,
If only
and I think
could do.
what
it's very
Democrats-
funny to me that Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, the two richest motherfuckers on the planet, came out personally to intervene in favour of Trump, but the Trump supporters want to tell you that he's the anti-establishment
Oh
guy.
my god, that drives me up the wall.
Him and Nige.
For
yeah,
me,
exactly.
right.
Yeah. Well, Nige, anything to avoid being in Clacton, eh? Fair play.
I mean, the right annoy me for a lot of reasons. They annoy me with their classism. They annoy me with their racism, their sexism. But the thing for me that pisses me off the most is the misinformation. It's the gaslighting. It's Elon Musk, the guy that owns Twitter, the richest man in the world, then says this is a fight for the ordinary people against the elites. Like, that fucking boils my piss so much because it's obviously not fucking true.
No, but
poisoning people's minds with this crap. Trump,
he likes the Doge meme in 2024. He's so against the grain.
I mean, Trump is a fucking dynasty.
Yeah.
It's so fucking annoying and this is I was saying in the chat, this is why liberals are so fucking dangerous as well, because if you don't do the dismantling of capitalism, if you don't do anti-capitalism stuff that actually makes people's lives better whilst doing social justice stuff and putting a pride flag on everything and pretending, you can't, you need to address the inequality at the same time as doing all the intersectional bullshit. So then, not bullshit, it's good shit, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But if you don't do that, then what you end up with is people going, oh, it's wokeism. It's just identity politics. We need to fuck off identity politics, which then actually hurts people. Yeah. So liberals doing this bullshit, pretending that they give a shit about people and using that, oh, you're a bad person if you don't support these things, instead of actually looking at the things that are fucking us over. It just means, they do actually cause... It's not like they're a pipeline on the way to becoming left-wing. They're actively hurting people. I'm just they're not I think they're so dangerous.
I also think Democrats, they think they can be the good capitalists. They think they can still rely on capitalism, and what they don't understand is they do have a lot of billionaires on their side, right? But most of the billionaires will still back a fascist, someone like Trump. I mean, what's interesting is obviously Trump wins the election. The markets are not spooked.
No,
they're not
at
spooked.
all.
And you would think, well, Trump wants to impose 10% tariffs. Trump wants to, even it's geopolitical, but talking about pulling out of NATO, and that obviously links to the economy and stabilization, right? You'd think that the markets might crash because capitalists would be spooked under Trump, right? But they won't, because first of all, they don't believe that Trump's actually going to go through these tariffs. But even if they do, the billionaire class and the big corporations will be fine. Those tariffs destroy small businesses and consumers, but the big businesses, they'll still survive. But the main thing they're counting on is the fact that they know that Trump and the right will always have more of their interests than any of the establishment Democrats. Even though the Democrats and Labour today are absolutely pro-capital and they do support their class interests, right? At the end of the day, they're going to get more concessions from the right. So it's funny when you got these people pandering to the rich, pandering to the billionaire class, when they'll still turn round and say, "Now we're going to go with the fascists." You know? I mean, people probably were surprised that Jeff Bezos intervened and pulled WAPO, because when you turn around and Washington Post, which is owned by Jeff Bezos, and doesn't endorse a candidate, what that means is Trump endorsed Bezos endorsed Trump.
Yeah, and it's not like that was the decision organically. The editorial board literally wanted to endorse Harris, and he personally intervened to say no, and then his reasoning was, I want the paper to be seen as politically neutral. No. You intervening makes it very much politically not fucking neutral.
I still think we should have left Jeff Bezos in space.
Yeah.
Well, that's a very passive way of looking at it. Why don't we reintroduce him to space and still fucking leave him there, the cunt?
Yeah,
Send
you're
him.
talking about it's too late. We can fucking send him.
Exactly. That's not a one-way ticket. We can beat gravity. Let's fucking do this.
I do think people have this notion of the sensible capitalist class, though, not just Democrats. But
Well, this is what Keir Starmer is.
But there
I'm
isn't.
the sensible. Don't worry, guys. Like, you're never actually going to have. It's like the benevolent capitalist. Like, you'll have enough. You'll have enough to go around, but you're going to have to decide how to fight between yourselves amongst
Well, it's
it.
the same.
Like the whole thing, refugees cost too much money. Okay, so what will we do? Should we just keep reducing the population size as we continue to lose resource until eventually we have to just like start killing off the old people? Is that what we'll do? Is that the plan?
Yeah.
Does it feel like a good plan?
It's the same peasant mentality, unfortunately, as existed under kings, basically.
Yeah, you're right.
The idea that there's some, like, they're in power, so they must know what they're doing. This is fine. We need to just trust them. It's fine. No,
the rich are always going to be rich.
I've got a theory about Keir Starmer, though. That it's not really a theory, but it's like of his character. That I feel like he has a fetish of sucking up to power. Like he has this weird. I know.
God.
I'm sorry,
Curtis.
but I do, because when you watch him, the way he talks about being pro-business or changing the Labour Party, you can see his body language, and internally he's like, "Oh, I love it. I love being the little bitch for capital. I love being a servant for them," and I actually think he enjoys it. Right? When he's talking, like when he was campaigning for leader, and he was talking about proper good shit. He didn't like that, and he's wooden. Well, I mean, he is wooden anyway, but he's like, "Oh, I'm lying through my teeth here." But when he talks about like bringing on the billionaires to Labour and the Change Party, the guy
Fully
gets
erect.
a fucking boner. He is, and I'm not even being facetious here. I legit think inside his head, he really enjoys being a bitch for capital.
He is. He's the guy who wants to live in the cock chair.
Yeah,
That's the worst. This is the worst news I've had all day. Made me feel absolutely sick. I already feel sick in my mouth when he talks. I literally can't listen to him speaking. And now you've added this into the mix.
Yeah, so whenever you watch him, you just look at him and be like, "Oh, he's actually like really
Great.
Like,
thank you.
It's a kink. It's a cut kink. It is.
This isn't going to help me get out my echo chamber, Curtis. This is sending me further into the echo chamber.
He wants to see Jeff
Sending you
Bezos fuck
straight
his
in.
wife. That's just a
Yeah.
fact. Okay.
Like Elon Musk with Trump. I love one thing that did cheer me up on election night was knowing that Elon Musk was spending the evening celebrating with Donald Trump, and Donald Trump just doesn't understand him at all.
Yeah.
Donald Trump would have just been there like, who is this man?
Well,
What does he want?
my favourite moment is the picture of and it says
the jump,
the family, right? And it's Donald Trump. So Elon Musk is there, and his wife isn't.
It's so fucked.
It's amazing. Oh god, these divorced
To be
freaks.
fair, I think
divorced energy.
Keir Starmer is what Elon Musk is to Trump. Then,
Yeah.
like he's that little. Hello, Mr.
Oh,
Seven.
please, can you be my friend?
Yeah, and it's like
Friend.
Starmer's like, "Oh, friend with the billionaire class," and Musk's like, "Oh, Trump, please be my friend." And by the way, Trump fucking hates him. He hates.
Yeah, did he not see how Theresa May got treated? And Theresa May was a fucking Tory. She was like, "Oh, we're very happy with our special relationship." And Donald Trump literally had no idea who she was and just immediately snaked her.
Yeah.
I don't know why these people keep trying to suck up to these snakes and then being like, "Oh my god, I've been snaked." It doesn't make any sense.
David Lammy's the best. David Lammy. That's
oh god, yeah.
biggest cock move I've ever seen in my life. Honestly, that guy deserves every disease known to man.
David Lammy's been absolutely. He's gone. Like,
I'll revise my theory. Starmer does have that kink, but Lammy has it.
Must we revisit the theory?
But Lammy has it way worse.
Yeah, Lammy's in the cock chair that watches the cock chair that Keir Starmer is in.
Yeah.
I'm a visual learner, guys. This is.
We've summed up the Labour Party basically. They're just full of like.
It's just a series of cocks in a chair queue. That's all that's happening.
I think honestly, I think Lammy's like, "Hello, Mr. Billionaire. Please stand on me. Stand on me."
What's wrong?
I don't know.
This is horrible.
Honestly, I feel like we're going to give her PTSD. This needs to stop.
This is absolutely fucking awful news.
How different is the tone on like fucking Kev's channel?
Yeah, no, I'm a vortex. I'm a
Wow.
vortex of degeneracy. Everything around me just becomes worse. Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually,
what
for any of
happened? We were like off stream for 2 seconds, and Curtis is like, "I think Keir Starmer's fetish is this." Just instantly, man.
Well, to be fair, literally, I've got a bit now. Whenever we do this show, and then at the end, the Corbyn comes on and says his bit, I mute myself and start going, "The Mein Führer!" Ah! Like it.
What?
Because he was portrayed as Hitler, so the joke is that he's Hitler, and we like Hitler, right? Yeah.
I love the Corbyn jump scare.
Yeah.
It took hosting a few times to actually get used to the Corbyn jump scare. Like it would always make me go like, "Whoa!" Support media.
Yeah. Have you noticed? Oh, bless him. The way he holds the microphone, he holds it right at the end, like that.
Like a little
He
ice
doesn't
cream.
grab it like that. He holds it.
He's
Let's show
such a
you. That's
weird
great.
old
Yeah.
man. I love him. Oh.
Support social
look at
justice. Thank you. Turn left.
Well, the
He's
bottom,
very careful.
The bottom might fall out of it.
He's-
Yeah.
Yeah, because I said to him, I was like, we did the interview. I was like, oh, can you like plug our Patreon? He's like, oh yeah, I know Patreon because I think he'd done it for Double Down News. And I was like, this guy, right, is in the middle of an independent election. It was after one of his rallies, right? Obviously, he needs as much money his campaign can get. I mean, I didn't think of that at the time. I probably should have been a bit more sensitive to that, but anyway. And he's like, yeah, cool. But then he starts talking before I've like left the camera. Like I'm sprinting off, and he's already started going. Like, fuck. And then he holds the microphone like that. He's like balancing it on his finger. And it's like, oh,
The thing is, though, Jeremy Corbyn, he sees the reason that people like him is like you were saying, like when you first were waiting for him, he like came up behind and started talking about the community pond.
Yeah.
Because to him, every issue is as important. Like
Yes,
all
it
of
is,
these
yeah.
things are important to him all of the time. Like I genuinely think like his personal brand couldn't mean less to him to all of the other things that he cares about. Like I think he would take time for literally anything. Not saying that it's not valuable, like, that you didn't do a good job getting an interview with him, but I think he genuinely like would just he'll always take time for people. I just want him to be my
I
dad.
think he stops on the street for absolutely everyone. And I mean, I don't know how you can possibly do that because I always feel like, oh, if I was ever like famous, I'd be one of them celebrities who are like super nice to everyone that comes up to me. But then I'm also like, but
No,
I don't
you
think I would.
wouldn't.
I wouldn't. I'd be like, I'll get the fuck
No
out of my
chance.
face.
I would
You'd be
blow
calling
up.
everyone a bastard.
When I blow
Well,
up, I'm going to
unless
act like I
they're
don't
West
fucking
Street.
know anyone. Fuck all of you. Cash dollar. No, I'm going to joke. I don't give a fuck.
But yeah, no, it was me and Lewis, and we were waiting for his rally to start in the middle of London, and there was this pond. He was having it around the pond, like a big pond, and he just comes up between us, and he goes, "Oh, so back in 1980 something, we fixed this pond by."
I'm sorry, is he Mark Corrigan?
I
What the
don't know
fuck
why I'm
is
doing this
this?
voice. He
What?
doesn't even sound like it. So we fixed this pool, this pond. We all came together as a community, and he just walked off. I was like, fair enough, thank you.
This is why I think I'd scream if I met him. This is why it's dangerous for me to ever meet
Scream and
him.
be sick on him.
I'd scream, I'd cry, I'd try and hug him, I'd realise it was inappropriate, I wouldn't know what to do with my arms. I'd just scream.
I think I'd probably proposition him.
What? That's arguably worse. Okay, take me with you.
It's
Curtis.
definitely,
Yeah.
it's definitely inappropriate. But like, I feel like if you've got to shoot your shot. I'm not going to have many chances. So, what's the worst that can happen? He says no, and then gets a restraining order. Fine.
Fine.
Yeah, Charlotte, I think I'll take you.
If you had to choose the options.
We if you guys don't know watching, but there's a content creator called Davey Moo on TikTok. I don't know if you guys know. He's been on Turn Up a couple of times. So
We love
when I
Davey.
did the first Corbyn interview, he came down with me. I needed someone to like help set up, and also like it was the first time meeting him. I needed someone else to be there with me because I was like,
Gonna scream and throw up.
oh, yeah, I was screaming throw up. And anyway, so we're sat in this room waiting for him. I'm practicing my lines. And then he just walks in, so just like, all right? And we're like, what the fuck? And then David turns around and goes, "Oh my god, it's just so weird to see in real life because like you're usually like this big, like on my phone." And I was like, "What the fuck's he saying to him?" He's like, "Yeah, like this big usually." And then Jeremy goes, "Well, better get a bigger phone then."
Oh Jesus! He's like 900 years old, man. I love it. Get a bigger phone.
And then before we start recording, he's swearing, and I'm like, Jeremy. He's cool. I think he was on having a meeting with some people close to on the board of like these water companies, and he gets out. He's like, I was speaking to these bastards, you know. It's all greed to them. And I was like, yes, Jeremy, but also don't swear. I'm not used to this.
Curtis, you were saying like it's like because I was saying like I don't know how, like I'm disillusioned with politics and I'm but a summer child, and he's been doing it his entire life for like decades, getting like vilified by people, getting treated like shit for trying to do the right thing for people. I don't know how he maintains the motivation. And Curtis was saying that he like winds himself back up, like he'll be really calm and then he'll be like, but no,
yeah,
that's not okay.
So
And like
he
build
goes,
himself back up again.
Yeah, he'd be speaking really calm, and he goes, it's like, he puts his hand out. I can't do a Corbyn impression. It's like, but we will not tolerate inequality in society.
He has to remind himself, like, no, we won't actually.
Yeah. It's like, he just got animated out of nowhere. But he slightly intimidated me at the beginning because I think he was like, I don't know if his advisor told him who he was. So like, oh, so what's this then? I'm like, left-wing socialism.
I'm a socialist.
Socialist left-wing channel. He's like, all right then, let's do it.
See, is that less embarrassing than propositioning him, though? Come on.
Is that less embarrassing?
Look, I think he'd respect the honesty. I'm just saying.
I don't know. I think he would be fucking scared.
He should be scared.
It depends on the aggression with which you do the proposition. I imagine.
Look like a man that gets scared though. He's so confident.
Yeah, well, you'd have to be. Look, because I genuinely think just speaking in the House of Commons with like a million men screaming at you would be fucking sort of terrifying in a way. So, but doing that, but like with the entire media trying to, calling you Hitler, like you've got to have balls of steel.
I reckon that's the thing, though. I think he genuinely he's gone through it so much that it's just like old news.
Yeah.
It's like speaking to people at like a lot of the stuff post-Trump. Like, there's a lot of like white women being like, "How has this possibly happened again? Oh my God, this is awful!" And like, when you look at like a lot of the content from like the black community in the US, it's essentially, we've been through this, like, here we go again kind of thing. It's a totally different vibe. And I feel like when you've gone through a huge amount of this shit for your whole life, you're not tougher with it, but like it's not as shocking. You're not as shaken in the same way. Like, there's not the hysteria that comes with it that I think you get when you're not as experienced with that.
I mean, for me, it felt like he was so confident, not to do with how, because he's used to it, but because he's so sure about his beliefs. He's so principled. That's what I mean. That's me just reading his mind, by the way. But that's the feeling I had. It was like he's so sure of his beliefs. He's so confident, and that's carried him through.
Yeah.
Sure.
But
you must be really confident to do all of those rallies at Nuremberg back in the day as well, right?
Yeah, I guess that was why he was such a good speaker, because all the Nuremberg rallies. By the way, Kevin is joking, but the press thinks he is. The press probably think he was there.
Well, no, I'm just trying to ruin it because both you and Helena have done interviews with him now, and I feel like I need to ruin your reputation with him.
Or we'll somehow fix up an interview. You get an interview with him, but you don't proposition him.
Well, there's no point then. I do not agree to your terms.
Well, then I'm out. Well, then forget it.
What's
exactly.
The point? Do you want to meet Jeremy Corbyn? Well, can I proposition him? No. Well, I won't bother.
Well, I thought we cared about freedom of speech on this channel. What's going on here?
What?
I thought we cared about freedom of speech, but all of a sudden I'm now not allowed to say, "Can I fuck you, Jeremy Corbyn?"
This wokeism's
Exactly.
gone too far.
The woke mind virus. The woke mind virus has infected turn
Can't
left.
say anything anymore. Can't proposition Jeremy Corbyn aggressively anymore. Can't fucking do anything.
See, this is where the left gets wrong. We don't like freedom of speech.
This is why the left get nothing done, because they won't let Kevin proposition Jeremy Corbyn.
We're going to get a petition. Right. Let Kevin petition Jeremy Corbyn. We're going to get 100,000 signatures, and it's going to be debate in Parliament. Keir Starmer. Right,
Should
we've got a
Kevin?
petition.
Who is Kevin? Just as a
Fair
starting
enough,
point.
yeah.
Kevin of Sir Birmingham.
Exactly. They'd have to make me a member of the House of Lords, I think.
I'm
You'd be
really
a
worried
lord.
about you being proximity to power, actually. I feel like you should be nowhere near power.
I know, I've said this before. Yeah, no, I want way better people than me.
This is why I actually did. I did the House of Commons sitting when I was in Youth Parliament.
Yeah,
Super
not gonna
stick,
lie,
super
you
cool.
doing Youth Parliament is really, really cool.
I know it's
No,
it's
it's
not cool.
fucking
It's
not.
not cool.
It's the most briefcase thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's so
Being
embarrassing.
sarcastic, Kevin.
It's so unbelievably uncool. But
okay.
I did get to sit in the House of Commons when it was who was it? It was still Order. I've forgotten his name. John.
Burko.
John Burko. I got a signed postcard from John Burko back then. But it was one of the things that I did very quickly realise was I was like, I literally would have no capacity to maintain any kind of like I'd immediately not be allowed to do anything as an MP. If I tried to stand for like the local council, they'd be like, what are these loads of photos of you doing loads of MD as a teenager on your Facebook? And I'd be like, maybe. And they'd be like, right, well, no then.
I couldn't do it just on the basis of like I just need one of them to say some shit, and I'd be like, get the fuck outside, then you cunt. Let's have you.
I'll kill you. Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Like,
fucking go, mate.
Yeah, I don't think I could keep my cool with all the all the
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I'd just be
the
like,
whole
if you
bit where they're like, "Oh, Mr. Speaker, must we say?" I'd be like, "Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up!"
yeah,
You
I'd just,
shut
fucking
up.
dickhead.
You shut
yeah, exactly. If one of them
Yeah.
starts shouting at me, I'd be like, you fucking shout at me again, mate, and I'm fucking running over there. All right, I'm gonna
Yeah, you
fucking
can't-
flying kick to the chops,
Thing
you
is, though,
cheeky
why
cunt.
don't we try it? Why don't we get like an actual normie in Parliament that acts like that? And I feel like people want to see that. You'll become Prime Minister. If you start going, do you know what? Shut the fuck up, all of you.
I
Yeah.
genuinely think we need more of that. We need more left-wing populist, like aggro
Less
stuff,
posh
because
people
like
in Parliament, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Mick
Yeah.
Lynch. Look how well Mick Lynch did with the whole rail strikes thing, just by being actually more aggressive with the media. Like he'd be like, "What the fuck are you saying? Why are you even asking this question?"
Sneaker, are you volunteering to be the new populist left figure?
No,
Yes.
why'd you have to put the woman up to it?
MD for
Is it
MP.
golden
Let's
women?
go.
Don't involve me. Don't bring me into your silly games.
I'm a
You
populist
know
left.
what you
I've
said.
done MD.
Literally, Kevin, Curtis was saying before we went on the live, he was like, just so you know, it's going to be on Kevin's stream. And Curtis literally felt it necessary to warn me to not say anything terroristy. So I really feel like if that's where we're at, maybe I'm not the one to be going. Maybe
Fair enough.
I'm not the one to be
You're
going
joking,
up
though,
on
but the
BBC
fucking
News.
CIA are watching us right now. We'll get.
You remember when I
blacklisted.
misspoke on election night and said that I thought, well, I partly misspoke, I don't know if it was Freudian, and said that I couldn't wait to shoot Jacob Rees-Mogg instead of I meant to say I couldn't wait to see him lose, and I said I couldn't wait for to be shot, and then had to be
that
like,
way.
oh, sorry, didn't mean that. Like this
Maybe
is
that's the way to solve it.
Is that why the stream got demonetized?
Well, if you threaten to kill members of Parliament, that is an issue. Yes.
People
I
don't
think.
like it.
Yeah.
People don't like that. And that's me, that's because I zoned out very briefly as
Although
I was
I've-
talking and was reading another article. So if that's the issue, I'm not going to be the right one to go on like This Morning or whatever the fuck it's called.
True, but like my one of the running jokes on my channel is about the Inflation Reduction Act and how much I love the IRA. I'm a massive fan of the Inflation Reduction Act. I'm a massive fan of the IRA.
That's on Biden for calling it that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he's an Irishman. He knows what he's doing. Of course he does.
Exactly what he's doing.
Cheeky
Because he wants to
chappy.
be BBC. He's like, I'm Irish. I was like,
Yeah,
why are you
exactly.
so based on Ireland and this shit on everything else?
Exactly.
Okay. I need to go eat.
Yeah, I've
make
got
some
stuff to do.
clips.
Yeah.
Oh, she's gone again. Oh, she's back.
Okay.
Stop doing this. Why'd you keep?
All right.
Come back.
I lost signal and my phone's on 7%. I am going to have to jump, but is my computer thing done?
Are you eating?
No.
And
I'm having a little orange. If you must
Why is
know.
it crumbly?
I'm chomping.
Oh. All right.
That's the crunchiest orange I've ever heard in my life. Sounds like crisps.
All right. See, I should have just stayed out. Should have stayed out.
Should have.
Been criticised. Yeah. Left, right and centre. See, this is what it's like being a woman on the left.
True.
Okay.
Orange
you crunch
sexism.
one orange and everyone's a critic.
How have I developed a spot just in the last hour as well? What the fuck?
Liberals, talking about liberals.
Yeah, the stress of listening to liberals do things. Yeah.
They mess with your skin. Right, but I am I okay to jump, Curtis, or do you need me to stay in here?
No, we're done.
We'll go anyway, so we'll go and you can stay.
Oh, well, now I'm going to go faster. It was lovely to speak to you, Kevin. Lovely to meet you.
Yeah, same.
Hope to see you again soon around these parts.
True. Take care.
Again, thank you so much, Kevin.
No problem. Thanks for having me on, man.
Bye, Kevin Stream.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And we're done. Huh. Hang on a minute, Chatterinos. What are we up to? Hang on. Why are people contacting me? What is this? So much of that. I think you're... but I can barely hear Curtis, and whenever Sneak starts making sound, it drowns both out. Oh, sorry. Apologies. I didn't. I wasn't watching chat because I was thinking about fucking Jeremy Corbyn. So you know, that's the thing. I think I made a good impression. Oh, Jesus Christ. Anyway. We're gonna should we watch this thing about Amsterdam from Owen Jones? Should be fun. And then if anyone's got anything funny for after that, by all means hit me up. Don't forget, everybody, hang on, have I? I have now turned the alert box back on. So if you subscribe to the channel and all that shit, then the noises will happen. We did have some things take place. Thank you to Lace Argar for resubscribing on on YouTube, and thank you James for gifting 5 memberships on YouTube. Much love to thee. If you wanted to, you can do bits messages, you can become a member, you can subscribe with Amazon Prime, gift subs to the community. You can become a member on YouTube for 99p. You can give memberships to the community, and you can do super chats, which I'll read out. Anyway, yes, let us indulge.
The Western media and Western politicians are lying to you. Well, police are shons, you might think, but this is a very specific case study, and it is deeply illustrative and deeply alarming. Yesterday, racist Israeli football thugs rioted in Amsterdam while publicly inciting genocide, a criminal act under the 1948 Genocide Convention. This is the proximate cause of the violence. Now, to be clear, I'm not a vigilante sort of guy, and I'm not going to pretend to know exactly what happened in Amsterdam. I wasn't there, I'm not on the ground, and nor would I ever justify violence against anyone unless in self-defense. These are important caveats. I'll always stick to the truth and always be morally consistent. What matters is you can say all that.
Yeah, the audio is peak leftism. That's how you know he's a socialist. It's the audio.
Without erasing what we know happened in Amsterdam, because we can all see and hear for ourselves. Now, the narrative being pushed is that there was a pogrom against Jewish people in Amsterdam yesterday. A exceptionally serious claim. One of the most serious things you could possibly say. Now, the King of Netherlands declares that we failed the Jewish community as the country did during World War II.
Can I just say to the King of the Netherlands, go fuck yourself, mate. Let's go to Sincerity Cam. Sincerity Cam doesn't want to work for some fucking reason. There we go. And, I have to activate the fucking thing, don't I? Yeah, there we go. Kaboom. Sincerity Cam. King of the Netherlands. I don't even know your fucking name, mate. I don't know your name. Just across the border, because technically Belgium didn't exist at the time, in France, they had a way of dealing with kings who didn't represent the people of their nations. I'm not suggesting for a second that that should happen. What I am suggesting is that you are a fucking cunt. To compare what happened last night with the way in which the Dutch people didn't just let down the Jewish community of the Netherlands, but actively, some people in Dutch society actively collaborated and, of course, sold the likes of Anne Frank down the river. To compare those two things is fucking despicable. You are scum. You have earned in me an eternal enemy. His name is Willem Alexander. He is a cunt. Over and above the fact that Sincerity Cam did blackface, it's all over. True, Social X, true. Anyway. Over and above the fact that kings in general are illegitimate and shit, that guy can eat my fucking balls.
And to be clear, the Netherlands suffered the worst impact of Nazi occupation of any Western European nation, with 3/4 of its pre-war Jewish population exterminated.
I'm glad he added the word Western European nation. Yeah.
It is absolutely obscene to compare what happened to Amsterdam to that abomination. Now, the headlines across the media simply portray the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans as victims. Israeli soccer fans attacked in Amsterdam, authorities say, is a typical such headline. Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the EU Commission, says, outraged by last night's vile attacks targeting Israeli citizens in Amsterdam. I just spoke with the Dutch Prime Minister. I strongly condemn these unacceptable acts.
Fuck you, Ursula von der Leyen, and fuck you, Prime Minister Cuntface. I don't fucking know. Is it still Ritter? I don't care.
Anti-Semitism has absolutely no place in Europe, and we are determined to fight all forms of hatred. She has shown more outrage here, I would note, than she has for the mass murder of tens of thousands of Palestinians by the Israeli state. And she says all forms of hatred, but there was very specific forms of hatred being expressed.
It looks like he's on an Orange March. To be fair, the fact that the Orange March is called the Orange March is linked to the Netherlands. Literally William of Orange. That's a thing. So he looks like he's on an Orange March, because he is. Just with a slightly different context. Kev, do you condemn the people of Amsterdam? No. The people of Amsterdam have a right to defend herself. Yeah? Amsterdam has a right to exist and has a right to defend itself. Herself, sorry.
On the streets of Amsterdam, we'll come on to, which she clearly did not condemn. Now, this is Naftali Bennett. He's the former Israeli Prime Minister.
At this very moment...
Oh, it's not Rutte, it's now... Hang on. His name is Dick Schoof. Chat. You know I've been doing this whole bit about Jizz Hornkamp for like 2 fucking years. How did nobody inform me, or why am I such an ignorant cunt that I don't even already know this, that the Dutch Prime Minister is called Dick Schoof? Dick Schoof. Schoof? I don't care how it's pronounced. The Dutch people are fucking mental. I love it. Honestly, it's the most insane language that's ever existed. It's so pure. Oh my god. What happened in Amsterdam? Maccabi Tel Aviv, an Israeli football team, were playing against Ajax, obviously the team, one of the big teams in the Netherlands. And the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans were pieces of shit and got their shit pushed in. I mean, literally, they were acting like fucking garbage and they got battered because they're hooligan scum. And the media's portraying this as anti-Semitism, which it is not. You pronounce it as OA, like boat, so shof. His name is Dick Schoaf. Dick Schoaf. Dick Schoaf. Which sounds a bit like a disease or something, I'm not sure. Ding, 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 ding.
Moment in Amsterdam, Jews are being attacked at multiple locations with brutal force. It's a pogrom in action.
No, it isn't. You fucking Zionist cunt.
Call upon the Dutch authorities, the Amsterdam authorities, to act immediately to prevent...
Also, I'm sorry, I'm not going to take fucking lessons in human rights or whatever, or like protecting people. You are literally bombing children, you are bombing hospitals and schools, and you want me to feel bad because some fucking thug got his head kicked in. He got beat up. No one was killed. People who turned up wanting violence got violence. Okay, fuck around, find out, I guess.
And further injury and to prevent the loss of lives.
Yeah, an Israeli politician talking about a government needing to prevent the loss of lives. Like, get fucked. Actually get fucked.
Now, before I put that in context, this is Sky News talking about Kristallnacht, the murderous Nazi pogrom of Jews across Germany in 1938.
Some of those people who perhaps live in Amsterdam, those Jewish people there, were remembering Kristallnacht, which was...
You people are fucking scum. If you are invoking Kristallnacht in response to this, you are literally doing essentially Holocaust denial. If you think this is remotely comparable, then you are undermining the seriousness of the Holocaust to the point where you are doing Holocaust denial. You should know that. And you should know that, again, you have made yourself an enemy of me. Made yourself an enemy of me? That works, yeah.
A pogrom that happened before World War II where Jews were targeted, of course. You can understand how upset, how angry, how afraid they are that this happened in their own country in modern times.
Now, as the Israeli analyst Meyrav Zonstein puts it, comparing what is happening in Amsterdam to the Holocaust or to pogroms in Russia is absurd, offensive, and a cynical weaponization of anti-Semitism that undermines Jewish safety everywhere, all things that will become further normalized in a second Trump-Netanyahu period. The Israeli leftist politician Ofer Kasif, a lone courageous voice amongst Jewish Israeli politicians in the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, offers far more accurate coverage than the vast majority of the Western media, saying the spirit of Israeli fascism reached Amsterdam. Fans go on a violent rampage, beating, tearing up Palestinian flags in the streets as if they were an occupying force and shouting Nazi slogans in favour of the extermination of a nation, and whining when the situation degenerates into complete chaos and violence returns to them like a boomerang. Any violence is obscene and unacceptable. Both sides should be held accountable for the hooliganism, and the Israeli media, as usual, approaches highs and distorts reality in the service of the authorities. Well, not just the Israeli media, to be very clear. What actually happened? These racist Israeli football hooligans went on the rampage. Firstly, at the stadium, they jeered through a minute's silence for victims of Spain's floods, because Spain has recognised the Palestinian state and spoken in support of arms embargo. Do you know what they were chanting there? There's no schools in Gaza because we killed all the kids. What do you even say? What do you even say at this point? This attempt to turn the world on its head and reality upside down, this just simply cannot carry on. This gaslighting. They tore down Palestinian flags in Amsterdam.
Remember, these people are tourists, these people are guests in the city of Amsterdam, and apparently the people are supposed to be fine with them, like, destroying their shit. Fuck you. I'm not gonna, I don't condemn. I'll just say it right now, I don't condemn the majority of what took place in response to this. I'm sure there were probably like some anti-Semites who got mixed in with it because the Nazis are going to Nazi. But the vast majority of people were doing defensive anti-fascist action against these fascists. And I won't fucking condemn that. Not at all.
They chanted death to the Arabs and let the IDF fuck the Arabs, which is incitement to genocide and a grave criminal offence in all countries which have ratified the 1948 Genocide Convention, which of course includes the Netherlands and, I might add, Israel.
These people are being portrayed as victims. Amazing. Fucking amazing. Oh God. I've just noticed in the sidebar. Do we want to have a look at Bad Empanada's video, How to Defend Genocide, which has a thumbnail featuring Mr. Stephen Borelli and a certain Scottish chap who we're all aware of. Yikerinos. Yeah, okay, we'll have a look at that after this. Holy shitballs, that should be interesting, I think. Is certainly a word I think that can be described. Yeah.
It gets worse. The BBC headline was Israeli football fans attacked in Amsterdam, officials say, with a clip of this purported attack. Indeed, you can see this clip for yourself. It does indeed look disturbing. Just a minor issue here. A Dutch photographer responded to someone...
That's fucking wild, 255. I get it, but it's wild.
Sharing this clip with the following. I'm the creator of this video. You're spreading fake news. This is a group of Maccabi supporters starting a fight and beating one Dutchman. Delete this...
Wow. Zionists lying and showing their violence as somebody else's violence in order to play the victim. That's cray-cray.
Content, I didn't give you permission. I mean, that just sums it up, doesn't it? That just sums it up. The attempt to turn reality on its head. Literally sharing a video of Maccabi fans attacking a Dutchman and then portraying it as though it's Maccabi fans, Israeli fans, football hooligans being attacked. And as dire as the vast majority of the coverage has been, even Sky News posted this.
Well done to the police there. Just scrolling by, doing nothing. Fucking useless. It's good to see that ACAB really is universal. It's honestly, everywhere in the world, it's 12 minutes past 1. Always. Fucking insane.
And buried in the BBC coverage in its live feed is the following. The BBC has spoken to a fan who went to the match last night who reports seeing Maccabi Tel Aviv fans supporters on the Amsterdam metro going up and down the carriages 3 or 4 times looking for a fight. Connor says everyone was going into the city, so everyone knew what was going to happen. He adds he's shocked by the betrayal of the incident in the media, adding that the attacks were completely provoked and Palestinian flags were torn down the night before. It then adds in italics as a disclaimer below it, though. As a reminder, authorities in the Netherlands have condemned anti-Semitic attacks on Israeli fans, with Amsterdam's mayor reporting Israeli supporters were actively sought out for violence across the city. Look, anti-Semitism is real. It's a danger. It's rising. It has to be confronted. The constant attempt to dilute its meaning is beyond irresponsible. If Russian football hooligans had chanted their way through a minute's silence for the dead victims of a country which had taken some sort of stance against the invasion of Ukraine by chanting in support of the mass murder of Ukrainian children, if they had rampaged through a city ripping down Ukrainian flags, if they were chanting death to Ukrainians, if they violently attacked residents of that city, if they then suffered violence, how would the media frame it?
Hang on, what's this? Up for a few... hang on. Up for send a few texts to Ursula von der Leyen for the stream. I don't know what that means, non-binary. I have mobile numbers for press officers, personal, so public info. I mean, I don't know what the point of that would be. Like, you can do it if you wanted to, but I'm not. Like, I don't. That seems like some lib way of approaching it. Do you think Ursula von der Leyen is going to change anything if I text her? What about if I proposition her? I'm just propositioning politicians tonight. That's all that's happening.
Know the answer to that question, even though it's a total hypothetical, because Russian football clubs are banned from these competitions, correctly, unlike Israeli football clubs, even though that country is committing genocide. You are being lied to. You are not being told the truth. Our media will consistently bend reality when it comes to Israel. That happens over and over again. And they are showing more outrage and horror at what happened to Israeli football hooligans than they have for the mass slaughter of Palestinians, including so many children. The children these hooligans relished murdering. Something's got to give, guys. This is a disgrace. And we cannot let our media consistently gaslight and lie to us, not least concerning one of the grave atrocities of our time. Please like and subscribe. Do share this video. Get the truth out. Help us carry on taking on this burning skip of a media industry at patreon.com/OwenJones84. Listen.
No, give me money instead. Owen Jones is doing fine. He's in a hotel room. You give me money. Bits, subs, and all that jazz. That's what you should do. It's hang on, I've got the thing. $5 a month. It's $5. I still love that someone made that for me. That's awesome. Did he say football plugs? I don't think he did. I think he said football thugs. Anyway. Yeah, go and support Owen Jones. He's a good lad as well. Being in a hotel room is a sign of doing fine. Well, he's probably on holiday or something, isn't he? Didn't he go to the US to like cover the election or some shit? Like, he's doing alright for himself. Anyway, okay. Caveat.
How do you justify the unjustified?
Okay, caveat here. Bad Empanada is a fucking lunatic. View everything that we were about to see through that lens, okay? He's probably going to be right to some extent on Israel-Palestine. To some extent. I'm not sure exactly what his positions are. But be under no illusion, Chatterinos. He is barking. So, just saying.
How do you justify the unjustifiable? What do you do when you are completely committed to defending a state, no matter what it does, when what it's doing makes doing that increasingly difficult, and when trying to do so will invariably make you come off as more than a little bit ridiculous, as well as a Goebbels tier genocide propagandist? It turns out that self-assigned job is really quite difficult, and I'm going to go over some examples here.
Peak male performance.
Get some help.
That's peak male performance, people. It just is. Facts. Hello there, says Thomas. New subscriber Reno. Much love to you. Welcome to the Kevolution, friend Reno. I don't know why I'm saying Reno at the end of everything now. It's fucking annoying. B's conclusion may be right, but the way he gets there may be a bit of non sequitur in a horrific way. Probably. Yeah. There's a reason I called him Mad Enchilada. Yeah, that works. That works. I still can't figure out his accent. Well, the Bad Empanada, he's Australian. Look, he's Australian, my dude. Slash non-dude. I don't know what your pronouns are. Like, it's Helena channeling. Well, to be fair, I think I infected Helena with the Areno thing. I think. I think that's how that worked. Maybe it's compounded. It's boomeranged back on me. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, Bad Empanada is an Australian who lives in Argentina. Yeah, it's a weird mixture of things, but it's you know. He also speaks Spanish. He did have for some time a Spanish language channel. I don't know if he still does stuff on that. Don't really care either. So
here that show just how hard of a task these brave pro-genocide propagandists have committed themselves to in their fanatical, never-ending quest to justify, downplay, apologize for, or deny anything they think they possibly can regarding the ongoing Gaza genocide.
I have to say, it didn't surprise me that Destiny took the position he did because he's scum, but Lonerbox did disappoint me with this shit. I thought he was better than this. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't think he's like irretrievably evil or anything like that. I think he's just fucking wrong. But what is this? Is this Poporino, baby? Okay, that's not dancing, that's fucking a couch. That is wrongly titled. Incorrectly titled. Framing them as pro-genocide is beyond dishonest. I don't think I don't see framing Destiny as pro-genocide as being dishonest. I think he is pro-genocide. He wouldn't necessarily describe it that way. In fact, I know he doesn't describe it that way. But I don't really care. I don't think, from what I've seen of Lonerbox's content, I don't think he's pro-genocide. He's just he's genocide passive, which is gross too. JD Vance is a dog. That was JD Vance stuff, yeah. True.
This video was made possible thanks to my supporters on Patreon and Ko-fi. If you like it, this is Israel's self-appointed lawyer, the YouTuber Lonerbox. He has taken it upon himself to do every possible thing that he can to defend Israel's Gaza genocide. You are about to see him attempt his best defense of the revelation from a New York Times investigation that Israeli soldiers have intentionally...
Oh, yeah. I mean, I did preface this by saying Bad Empanada is fucking mental. So, like, I'm aware of Bad Empanada's past. I'm aware of who he is. Which is why this video is always going to be spicy as fuck.
Been massacring children in droves via single, precise shots to the head. Multiple doctors and nurses who spent time serving in Gaza hospitals during the genocide attested to the fact that between them, they had seen many dozens, upwards of 100 in total, cases of children shot in the head. And they provided the New York Times with x-rays that show these injuries, as well as photographic evidence, which the Times considered too graphic to publish, of these children's gunshot wounds to the head. The evidence that this is a systemic practice of the Israeli military in Gaza is quite overwhelming. So how does a pro-genocide propagandist deal with this? Let's take a look. Here is the reaction of Israel's lawyer to seeing political commentator Mehdi Hassan bring this up in a debate.
3 American doctors went to Gaza. Dr. Feyyaz Sidwa, Dr. Irfan Galaria, and a Jewish American doctor called Dr. Mark Perlmutter. All of them came back at separate times, said children were brought into hospitals we were in with gunshot to the head, sniper shots. Perfect. Exact targets. There is no tunnel that justifies shooting toddlers in the head. Israeli snipers.
Does this guy not know how sniping jobs work? Like, the problem with sniping isn't, like, the accuracy is not because obviously you got your scope and the fucking, like, yeah, it's quite easy, you can accurately snipe, but targets and personnel move really, really fast when you're sniping. Like, snipers make their decisions in less than a split second in combat situations.
And at what point is it ever okay for them to have shot children? The fuck happened to this guy? What the fuck happened to this guy? I've never seen this clip before. As if Mehdi Hassan's point was remotely about the split-second decision-making of snipers. No, they are saying they are deliberately targeting, like, children. They're shooting children in the fucking head on purpose, knowing it's a child. Oh my fucking god, what a cunt. What an absolute cunt. Thank you, Jason Ashby, for becoming a member on YouTube. Much love to you, man. That is fucking grotesque.
Unless he's suggesting there were just a couple of kids sitting on the hill, and a guy opposite in a building just went, got him, take him out. Maybe someone committed a war crime.
Maybe, yeah, maybe Israel did commit a war crime. That's crazy. Imagine that. Whew.
But I don't think that's Israeli policy, is to snipe kids for no reason, to snipe toddlers. But okay.
Okay, so the rebuttal there is that apparently this is just happening by accident. Israeli snipers are accidentally shooting hundreds of kids.
That was a gut punch, wasn't it? Fucking hell.
Kids in the head because they are mistaking them for fighters or something. And apparently this guy is a sniper expert, and that's how he knows this is happening. It really is that simple.
Does this guy not know how sniping jobs work?
Now, refuting this on a factual basis seems redundant and stupid to even do, because it's clear that he's just making this up in the moment. It's not really a serious argument or anything. He's just desperate to defend anything that Israel does, and that's just what happened to come to his mind in that moment. Nonetheless, it can be refuted on a factual basis. You aim for the head in an assassination when you are sure that you have the shot, and your aim is not to disable the target as a threat, but rather to ensure a kill. In a combat situation, if these were militants who pose a threat, the aim first and foremost is to disable them as a threat, rather than to kill them. And the head is a much smaller target than the body, so it is far safer to aim for the body. So there being so many headshots makes it very, very clear that these are deliberate targeted killings of children. You do not accidentally precisely aim at the head of a child and pull the trigger hundreds of times. Not that it would stop being a war crime if they were killing hundreds of preteen children with body shots by any means. And it would also be quite obvious anyway, looking through a sniper scope, that you are looking at a child and not a militant. To precisely aim for the head, line up a shot, take the shot, and hit it, not just once, but hundreds of times, indicates a level of intent that can only reasonably be described as systematic. But what is Israel's lawyer's argument for why he thinks that despite...
Israel's lawyer. Oh, look at my lawyer, dog. I'm going to jail.
...that overwhelming evidence, it's actually not so obvious? Well...
But I don't think that's Israeli policy, is to snipe kids for no reason, to snipe toddlers, but okay.
You heard right. Just that he thinks Israel wouldn't do it. That's all. That's all he needs. They wouldn't do it. I don't believe they would do it. Evidence be damned. They are not doing it. I said so. Case closed. There's a clear implication there, which should be obvious to anyone who is familiar with the rhetoric of pro-Israel propagandists, that also implying that they would do that intentionally is anti-Semitic. And this sort of claim is very oft-repeated. For example, in this tweet by another pro-Israel...
An Israeli drone will not have targeted a child, full stop. Yeah, Daniel Finkelstein's an idiot.
Israel propagandist who was very adamant that Israel would simply never kill a child intentionally. It's impossible. They've just committed tens of thousands of unfortunate accidents, systematically, in a clear pattern over the course of a year. Or this abhorrent Guardian article where another pro-Israel propagandist explicitly argues...
Tales of infanticide should have stoked how they echo to... Oh, fuck. Oh, well off, you cunt. This is what I mean. This weaponizing of, like, actual evil shit that's happened to Jewish people over centuries to try and cover for Israel today. Get fucked. Get actually fucked, you piece of shit. Does this need adjustments? What am I looking at? Dear Eric. Who's Eric? What? Subject. Inquiring regarding recent incident in... Oh, Eric is the press officer. Oh, okay. I'm with you. I'll read that off air, non-binary. Thank you. I'm not going to do it on stream. That would be too self-indulgent even for the Kev.
that the media citing factual information about Israel murdering children is a form of anti-Semitic blood libel. Now, Israel's lawyer isn't quite as explicit as that guy was, but the implication is there. He knows what he's doing. The others who do the same thing know what they're doing. The best argument that they have is that in spite of all the evidence that makes it clear as day that they are in fact doing this, they wouldn't do it. After all, they're Jewish. Jewish people can't commit atrocities like everyone else. How dare you imply otherwise? Aside from massacring children, women, men, the elderly, babies.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave B, with a donation there. I just saw on X, Israel is... But firstly, we don't call it that on this channel. It's Twitter. It will always be Twitter. Israel is bombing Beirut again. That doesn't surprise me. That doesn't remotely surprise me. Yeah. Yeah, of course they are. That's this. The whole thing with Amsterdam is literally just a way of distracting people from that. It's they're just trying to make out that they're the victims, and to distract from the evil shit that they're currently still doing in Gaza and in Lebanon. Yeah. Fucking evil shit.
It's pretty much anyone they can get their hands on. Israel has also been making their defenders' jobs quite a bit harder by just plain making shit up all the time. Whether it's elaborate, obviously fake 3D renderings of Hamas command centers under a hospital, which they then use to justify...
By the way, yeah, no, Elon Musk dead naming his kid. He's up to that again, going on about, oh, the woke mind virus killed my son. The one thing I'm taking some semblance of glee in is that look at the way in which Trump always fell out with every single member of his cabinet. Every single one. Is there any member of... There was like... Other than maybe... What was her name? The education bitch. DeVos? Other than her, did anyone last his 4 years? At all? No. So Elon Musk, a cantankerous, nasty, spiteful, hateful piece of shit, whose money Trump doesn't need anymore, I give it a year at most before they fall out and he fires him. From the Doge department. Stephen Miller? No, Stephen Miller left, didn't he? Stephen Miller was pushed aside after about 2 years, was it? He didn't last the full 4 years. And he was mostly an advisor anyway, I think. Did he actually have an official position? I'm not sure.
Find multiple massacres committed at that hospital.
And by the way, the same thing will happen with RFK as well. So, like, it's, you know... At least we can watch that and be like, ah, fuck those guys. Like, it doesn't detract from the damage they're going to do. Look, I'm not suggesting that. I'm not being like, oh, it's funny for the memes. I'm just saying, like, the bad shit's going to happen one way or the other. We might as well at least try and get some gallows joy out of it, I guess.
Or making ludicrous claims like Palestinians massacring 40 babies, the job of the self-appointed lawyers of Israel becomes harder with every single claim made. Let's refer back to that one again to see how he dealt with the 40 beheaded babies claim.
Maria, look, for a start off, Elon Musk is not a loyal Trump man. Elon Musk is a freak. The same with RFK. I think Project 2025 will have some success. I'm not denying that for a second. But to say, stop denying that he will succeed. Donald Trump is not hard-working enough to succeed. Donald Trump doesn't put the work in required to become a fascist dictator. In some respects, now that he's been elected, it would be best if he lived out his 4-year term. Like, I was thinking during his first 4 years, like, maybe he'll have a heart attack and die. That would be awesome. But actually, this time round, it would probably be worse if he did die. Because I think J.D. Vance is far more ideologically driven and hard-working. Do you know what I mean? Which means, of course, now that it's worse, he'll probably will have a fucking heart attack or get his head shot or whatever, you know. Fucking prick.
Again, this is why it's like the 40 beheaded babies. That hoax was not an Israeli. Like, I think there's a better way to put it. The 40 beheaded babies was not actually an Israeli government hoax. It wasn't. It was.
You think there'll be a 2028 election, a real one? I'm not sure there'll be a real one. They're going to place their... Look, they've already got their thumb on the scale in so many ways with the Electoral College and 2 senators each state and fucking purging voter rolls and voter suppression and blah, 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 blah. But they're going to put their fucking thumb on the scale even more to the point where it's not a fair election. I don't think the 2028 election will be a fair election. Trump will ensure, or one of his people, because again, he won't do the work for it. Yeah. Real political work happens on the ground, not with elections. Well, it's a combination of things, isn't it? Look, it's not either or. I think you can and should work on the ground in your communities, as I said earlier, about like joining trade unions and helping out with like fucking food drives and mutual aid societies and things like that. Those are really important things to do. But I don't think we should ignore the fact that there are things that can be achieved via the ballot box as well. In capitalism, you're never going to have true democracy, but that doesn't mean the semblance of democracy we have, A, should be given up on completely in the short term, and B, can't achieve things. Kev, was Destiny ever decent? Genuinely curious because I'd never actually followed him. Well, he's always been, on an interpersonal level, a scumbag. He's always had really bad things, right? But his politics were a lot better. He used to attack Nazis, and then he started hosting them for sandwiches and fun streams at his house. So, yeah, he was better than he currently is, but he was still shit. You know. What in the name of fuck is this cursed image? What the Elliot. That is me, Christie, and my dead cat Rory in Trump's cabinet. This is an outrage. It's an outrage. Also, I like that John Bolton in the background there is in the cuck chair watching me fuck Donald Trump. He's going to clean up after me. I'm the bull. Also, just the fact that John Bolton is there in the background just goes to show you that Trump isn't opposed to neocons. He had loads of them in his cabinet. Little fact for you. I'll leave that up there while I'm talking to people. Do you think it's even possible for the Dems to... maybe a 255. It's too far ahead, mate. I don't know. What is it, Maria? On Baden Panada, he doesn't get to scold anyone for defending child murder when he thinks it's justified to kill Israeli children. Yeah, look, Baden Panada's a bad dude. And yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It was a misspeak from a journalist that was spread around the world by a few fucking nutters, and then the people who really...
No, not by a few nutters. Well, I mean, okay, a few nutters, but those few nutters happen to be members of the Israeli government who consistently repeated that lie for months.
really made it last were people who were anti-Israel. They were the ones who spread that. They're the ones who have kept that alive.
So...
Oh, for fuck's sake, you snidey little cunt. Oh, it's not the person who made the lie, it's the person that called out the lie that has made the lie last. Not the fact that it was printed on front pages of major international newspapers. No, it's people calling out the bullshit. They're the real baddies. I'm going to revise the thing I said earlier. He is a genocidal Zionist piece of shit. He's just doing Hasbro, so like there's indistinct at this point. Fuck him. Absolute piece of garbage.
So his strategy here is not to blame that propaganda on the Israelis who made it up and spread it, but rather to blame the people who are against Israel's genocide for calling them out on it and not allowing them to forget it. The first part of this strategy here is not a very advanced one. It's known as lying. He lies about this idea that this was just an error made by one reporter, which was not spread by the Israeli state or other Israeli propagandists, nor anyone of any significance. It was merely mostly picked up on by opponents of Israel, solely by them, which is apparently a bad thing for them to do because, I don't know, apparently it's wrong to point out that Israel is inventing abhorrent, obviously fake, genocide-justifying propaganda over and over again because who knows why? He doesn't explain it. Here's the thing, though. This was spread by the State of Israel. It was spread by Eilon Levy, their official spokesman at the time. It was spread all over official Israeli social media. It was spread by Netanyahu's personal spokesperson.
When you listed the unconscionable atrocities that took place in that kibbutz, you did say that babies had been decapitated. Can I take that as confirmation then? Because that currently is being reported as reported action. That has actually happened, has it?
Toddlers, babies. I can tell you that they, some of them, heads were cut off. This is what we're hearing from from soldiers on the ground, and yes, they cut off heads. They cut off heads.
Which was then seen by US President Joe Biden, who then repeated the claim uncritically in a press conference.
I've been doing this a long time. I never really thought that I would see and have confirmed pictures of terrorists beheading children.
Look, Trump taking over is worse, but all I'll say is I will be glad to see this doddery old cunt go. I will not be happy to see the guy who replaces him, okay? Those are two separate things here. This cunt shouldn't be president of the United States anymore. The man is a fucking trash fire who should be remembered as a genocide-enabling scumfuck. And I will be crab dancing when he dies. So if there are any libs in the chat who want to be like upset about that, get ready. Because it's fucking happening.
I never thought I'd ever... Anyway.
Biden, the most powerful politician in the world, the leader of the state that is Israel's prime backer and accomplice, continued to repeat that claim for months afterwards. So apparently this claim was just made by one reporter and, just sort of was a fart in the wind, according to this guy. When in actual reality, it was spread precisely by the Israeli state itself, and their key ally, enabler, and supporter, the President of the United States of America. So the strategy of Israel's lawyer here was firstly just to lie, and then also to build on top of that lie by doing some impossibly stupid mental gymnastics to somehow spin globalist tier propaganda specifically spread by Israel.
Okay, a war crime has been committed. They massacred my boy. Look what they did to my boy. And ironically, he did have a little chunk of one of his ears missing after a fight. Only a little tiny chunk, but still more than Trump, because Trump didn't have any of his fucking ears missing. But I just want to say, Elliot, you are a fucking monster. You are actually a monster. Seek help. This is worse than the croissant. Yeah, 100%. 100 fucking %. This is monstrous. It's inhuman.
To justify its genocide on the people who are against the genocide. And I gotta say, it doesn't work at all. It is just kind of self-evidently ludicrous how these people are twisting themselves into knots to justify the unjustifiable. To willingly not just embarrass yourself in public like this, but to do it for the purposes of justifying genocide. I don't think there is an adjective that is strong enough to describe that level of both idiocy and depravity. The Israelis, their supporters, and their American allies spread an obvious lie about fake dead Israeli babies to justify their massacre of thousands of very real Palestinian babies. And we have people like this not talking about those actually real massacred Palestinian babies, but rather how Israeli propaganda about fake
But he will go, no, is it really genocide? No.
massacred Israeli babies is actually to blame on those who are against Israel's genocide. The pure dismissiveness that this guy displays when it comes to Palestinians
Andreas, I wish I could give you some hope. All I can do is quote, quite literally, from 1984. From George Unwin's 1986. When he said, if hope exists, it lies in the proles. The only thing that can stop the rise of fascism is working class solidarity and action. We all must, in our own small ways, get involved in our communities and stay vigilant. I know that doesn't necessarily sound very comforting, but it's true, and it's the only thing I can tell you. I've said before that honesty is an important part of what I do, and that I'm not going to pander to people, and I'm just going to tell you it as I see it, and that is just the truth of the situation. The proles were deliberately kept stupid and docile, and they are now. And it's our job to make them not stupid and docile. Ideally.
being massacred, children, babies being killed. It's just inhuman. But if you thought that was bad, how about we move on to one of Lonabox's best friends and frequent collaborators, the streamer Destiny. Topically, he had some
Hey, Mr. Borelli.
comments to make about the self-evidently absurd 40 beheaded babies propaganda, in which he just uncritically accepted Israeli propaganda entirely at its word.
The beheaded baby one, it was mostly factually correct, right? There were 40 dead babies. At least one was decapitated. They weren't all 40 decapitated, right? But so it's mostly correct, not 40 beheaded babies, just 40 dead babies with a few of their heads cut off, right?
So much for it only being hung on to by those dastardly anti-genocide people, huh?
It was a misspeak from a journalist that was spread around the world by a few fucking nutters.
Now let's compare the standard of evidence.
255, don't come in here with this classist bullshit. They're not thick. They're deliberately uneducated. As in, they are kept from education, proper education and class solidarity by hegemonic power structures that the bourgeoisie have put in place. Working class people are the same as every other kind of people. It's social conditioning and money and political power that keep them powerless.
Evidence that Destiny has for accepting ridiculous claims made by Israelis with the standard of evidence that he applies to literal video evidence of Palestinians being executed.
Oh, proles is short for proletarian or proletariat, whatever. It's the word used in 1984 to describe the vast majority of the people who are not like a part of the party, they're the workers or whatever.
Right before his eyes by the Israeli military. Now, I can't show the context for the clip that he is reacting to here for fear of potentially getting this video taken down by YouTube for showing someone literally dying, but I will describe it to you and there will be a link in the description. A reporter for the British news outlet ITV approaches a group of people in an Israeli...
Elliot is on a fucking tear tonight. That's that's the Yalta conference. Honestly, I feel about as healthy as FDR right now, so, like, that works. And Stalin, just like Christy Winters, is bisexual, so... And Rory Katz did kill millions of Indians. Oh, God. I'm just speaking ill of the dead now.
Israeli declared safe zone for civilians. These people are holding a white flag and waving it in order to make it clear to any Israeli troops that they are civilians. The reporter interviews a few of them. They explain that they are evacuating because, as is clear from the billowing smoke and gunshots which can be heard in the background, the supposed safe zone is no longer safe. Having interviewed the men, the interviewer turns around and leaves. Suddenly, Israeli troops begin firing on this group, and they hit one of them, killing him instantly. He is pulled aside behind cover by his companions, where they are joined by other civilians who are also evacuating. Amidst their screams and cries as they realize that he is dead, the Israeli soldiers begin to fire on them again. To reiterate, again, this was a group of civilians, including children, who were waving white flags. They had done everything that Israel had told them to do. They were in an Israeli-declared safe area, and they were in the process of evacuating to a different safe area. So what did Destiny think about this? Well,
the interview complete, our cameraman walked away.
So, like, why? So he is interviewing the guy who's about to go do some shit to get himself killed, basically. That's what's going to happen. We know from this point, that's what's going to happen. So he walks away, gets back a little bit, and then he sets up behind this thing, right? Is this concealment, I guess? Not cover, concealment, right? Because I think the tank's over here. So now he can capture the footage right here. He sees the guys walking, knowing that they're about to get shot, because that's what's going to happen. And then eventually they get shot and everything is, this is it. It's like act 1, 2, and 3. It's like all here. Now this guy is down. He's dead. These guys...
Right, but you don't seem to have a problem with the fact that Israel are going to shoot someone dead who's carrying a white flag. That's not an issue for you. Even though it is a fucking war crime. It is breaking international law. That's not an issue for you, though, clearly. Thank you, Andreas, with a donation. Super Chatterino. How do we get back those last 10 million voters? Who would you like one on the Democratic side? I like Newsom. He set up reparation study in California. Newsom has got some weird anti-homeless stuff that I don't like. He might still, unfortunately, be probably one of the better candidates.
Stop it. Get some help.
Also, I'm not entirely sure that having another California person is probably the best thing for it. You probably might want us to pick someone from, like, real America type thing, you know. Also, like I say, 2028 probably not going to be a fair election, so who knows. Thank you, Eddie PDX, for resubscribing. 25 months. Good gosh.
They're like...
and fatally wounded.
They're not even, like... They're not even running. They're not even, like, cowering and running away and screaming in fear. There's like, okay, well, they did it. We got our shots. Okay, is this guy done? Oh, shit. Well, okay. Well, we brought the white flags. We can put that over the bleeding part, assuming he got shot in it, actually, right?
Flag.
So it's the camera people that are the baddies here? Not the Israeli soldier for shooting someone with a white flag?
And then this guy, what, is this guy running back to grab the wife?
By this stage, the man's wife, his widow, has heard what happened.
And then, like, what does this mean? The wife has heard what happened. Like, bro, this is crazy. I'm sorry. The tracking live movement shot of the lady running up to her dead husband? Like, what is this?
By this...
It's modern media portraying a genocide taking place.
Stage, the man's wife, his widow, has heard what happened.
Somebody went back and told her, right? The 5 martyrs that walked forward, you know, your husband was the unlucky guy. He drew the short stick today, so come forward, cry for us on camera. Do you think the guy intentionally wanted to get killed? No, I don't think he wanted to die. I don't think they were thinking they were going to die, but they probably were hoping to get shot at, or maybe, so you're saying the woman was acting? I don't think the woman was acting. She probably was sincerely sad. Her husband got fucking killed. But I think they were farming TikTok clips. I mean...
Oh my fucking god, you internet brain scumfuck. You absolute fucking wildebeest. You fucking freak mutant googly-eyed cunt. Shut the fuck up. Forever. Forever. A person with a white flag didn't want to get shot dead. They were farming TikTok clips. You realise that not everything is some internet fucking meme. Not everything is about clout, you fucking You fucking soup-brained twat. The fuck is wrong with you? Like, this is where you know this man needs to go out and not just touch a bit of grass. He needs to touch every blade of grass. This man has totally lost, like, track of reality. Look, he's not connected to the real world anymore. How was Destiny not cancelled all of this? Because his audience loved this shit. His audience loved the murder of Palestinians. Otherwise, they'd have left by now. And a great many of them haven't. You can see the vastly rightward shift in his audience. It's fucking mad.
Remember, these people, not these people, I mean these people, we actually, yeah, like have suicide bombers. So it's not that big of a stretch to imagine.
Okay, but why would a suicide bomber go walk gently with a fucking white flag? What are you talking about? God, he's scum. He's a scum.
Imagine that they would be willing to get shot. However, now I haven't gone down this road because this is way more. It would require me to make a lot more assumptions. But it's also possible he didn't get shot, right? Now, do we know the name of the guy? Is he actually dead? Do we even know if that's his wife? These are a whole bunch of questions that would be valid. Now, if I was way more on the pro-Zionist side, I would be asking those questions. Who is this guy? Do we even know if he's actually fucking dead? Like, we don't actually see the wound. Right? It seems like they don't have any problem showing anything else. Like, why?
Just conspiracy theory bullshit. Brilliant. Because Israel would never kill somebody. It must just be... It's a crisis actor. These are all crisis actors. They're putting terrorism in the water that's turning the frogs, Hamas.
Why just the white flag so that it can look all bloody? Like, show us the actual gunshot. You have no problem showing other violence, right? What Pallywood means is that you're capturing intentional video footage to sell a certain narrative about what's going on.
Pallywood. Again, just Hasbro brain rot. Fucking pure brain rot. Thank you, Jim Speak with 200 bits. We're on a hype train. If we get to level 2 of the hype train, I will finger this man's sanity because it is dead. The violence in Amsterdam last night has been widely described as pogroming against Jews. This is not only misleading but politically dangerous. A thread. Well, that's a long thread. I'm not reading through that on air. But thank you for that, non-binary.
On basically. So Pallywood might be, this, right? So the idea is that like 4 innocent civilians are like walking up and you just want like a clip here of the IDF shooting them for no reason because they're civilians with white flags. And you kind of ignore the fact.
Yeah, like, dickhead. Yeah, like, even if that's true, right? Let's take his hypothetical scenario. Let's say that this is staged. For some reason, they wanted to do Pallywood. They wanted to get farm TikTok clicks with their own lives, apparently. The Israelis didn't have to shoot them. Like, the Israelis, like, this wouldn't be possible.
The return of the sausages.
It wouldn't be possible.
Oh, kitty bonk.
I'll get to it in a second. It wouldn't be possible for them to farm their TikTok clips by doing suicide via Israeli sniper if Israeli snipers were not killing people who had white flags. Look, if they just weren't doing that, if they weren't being evil cunts and shooting people who had white flags, they wouldn't be able to do their Pallywood, would they? If Israel stopped committing the war crimes, then people would not be able to, I don't know, induce them to commit those war crimes? To do war crime entrapment, so to speak? But the fact that you have made all of this up because you're a conspiracy theorist piece of shit who will say and do anything to defend your genocidal fucking hate boner means it's all the more worse. All the more worse, all the more bad, terrible, awful and shite. Fuck you.
The return of the sausages.
Thank you, Wayward Historian, with 1789 bitties. Nice. And thank you, Wayward Suzzled Snake. At least you got to tell this Destiny guy to eat my anus a while back. I did get to tell him that, and that was cool. What is this? So that's the dog. Your dog is going to eat the slippers. Oh, okay. That's fair enough. That's dog's prerogative.
fact that, like, okay, well, they're in a battle zone in an area they were told to evacuate from, and they're going back to try to release somebody that was captured. Like, that's like Hollywood, I think. You're essentially provoking the enemy to take what is largely.
You're provoking me to have to kill you by walking with a white flag. Yeah, tell it to The Hague.
Justified action, and then trying to say that it's like indiscriminate civilian killing. It's like a setup.
Just because
it's not fake,
is.
But they're doing it to themselves. You're.
Like, why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? I say as I drop a £1 million bomb on the entirety of a country. Fuck off, man.
Demonizing yourself. You're suiciding and sacrificing your civilian.
So now it's not even like a, well, maybe they did it. Now it's now headcanon for this freak that this guy definitely did commit suicide via sniper. It's not even questioning it anymore. He's now absolutely guaranteed that did happen in this fucking mutant's head.
Population.
Did you get that? Did you digest what was just said there? Taking it in? The Palestinian civilians were asking for it. By trying to make a crossing in an officially Israeli-declared safe zone for civilians, no less, they are responsible for their own murder. It's their fault for walking around with a white flag while being so Palestinian in the vision of an Israeli soldier. Much like Lonerbox, his very first instinct when he is confronted with overwhelming evidence of the state which he unconditionally supports committing war crimes, when said evidence renders outright denial impossible, the first thing that comes to mind for him is to blame the victims for their own deaths. He literally, unironically, makes the argument that Palestinians are essentially like baiting Israeli soldiers by walking provocatively with a white flag into killing them so that they can film it to do what he calls farming TikTok clips. This is the level of depravity, of desperation that the genocide propagandists are at. Israel's action...
We are on level 2 of the hype train, so I've got to go a finger in. But you can make the TikTok clips, whatever the fuck that means. You can make the hype train go even further and chew even more chewier. Chewy McChew face, so to speak, with bits and sobs. Much love.
Are so obvious, so clear, so well evidenced, so indefensible that there are frequently times like these where the best defense they can muster is, well, what did you expect, man? It's not like you can expect an Israeli soldier to resist an opportunity to just murder a Palestinian civilian.
True.
You were kind of asking for it there. And they aren't even cognitive of how what they're saying is a denouncement of themselves, of Israel, of everything they're trying to defend.
Did Baden Panada say the Holodomor was an accident? How do you accidentally starve millions of people to death? I mean, that's one hell of an accident, isn't it? Like, for me, an accident is like, you know, a car crash or something. Like, that's, you know what I mean? He said he wasn't a genocide. Okay. That's not the same as saying accident, I guess, but like, I see what you mean. Either way, he's wrong. Thank you, Sozzled Snake. Oh no, I already said that, didn't I? Thank you, everyone, for the hype train. Yeah, I've got to go and finger. I've got to go and finger this Destiny's sense of reality or whatever it was. I don't know. Hey, thank you, iPhone. iPhone? Yeah, we're going to go with iPhone. The iPhone 10? No, that's a different thing. Anyway, thank you, iPhone, with 10 gifted memberships on the YouTubes. Much fucking love to you. That is genuinely sexy. Much love.
The Goebbels level Israeli genocide propaganda that they are utilizing to attempt to justify their genocide, that's the fault of Palestinians and their supporters for even talking about it.
People who were anti-Israel, they were the ones who spread that.
Palestinian civilians being murdered by Israel on video.
Oh, E-fun. Okay.
In broad daylight while waving white flags in an Israeli-declared safe zone, that's their fault too.
I think they were farming TikTok clips.
Now, genocide justification usually has levels to it. It has like a checklist. First, it's blatant lies, attempting to sow doubt about the facts. You know, we can't really know what's going on, right? There's the fog of war. It's very unclear, though in this case, it's very much not unclear. The evidence is totally overwhelming. You see it on your social media feed every single day. They nonetheless have to act like the evidence is not clear, have to muddy the waters because it's the best that they can manage. To begin with, it's either that or just outright denying that it happened. The evidence is fake. It's Hollywood, as our friend Destiny so graciously called it. It's a Hamas conspiracy to delegitimize Israel, stuff like that. Then once that argument inevitably falls over, they move on to what Lonerbox tried in that first clip. Okay, so it did...
Should they be using Goebbels in the context of Israel? I see what you mean, but like, I think we're past the point of those niceties at this stage. I think like if you're gonna act like the Nazis, being compared to the Nazis is, you know, that's just a thing. You're just gonna have to fucking come to terms with.
Did happen, but there is an accident or there is some other explanation for it. Then when that doesn't work out, they move on to claiming, okay, so it wasn't an accident and maybe there isn't a good explanation for it, but that's not representative of the conduct of the Israeli military overall. Please ignore the endless evidence that it is. It's got nothing to do with the Israeli government or systematic Israeli policy. It's just one or two guys doing some bad stuff, you know? Then when none of that works, when they are backed into a corner by the endless evidence that makes it abundantly clear that this is...
This is a really good checklist, actually. This is what Hasbro people do.
Very much intentional policy, they move on to one of two things. Acknowledging that it's happening, but implying that somehow the victims made it happen, or the tried and tested strategy of, so are you implying that Israel would intentionally do the thing?
Yeah, the anti-Semitism thing. He's always the last to go. It's to slightly misquote the great Samuel Johnson. Claims of anti-Semitism is the last bastion of the scoundrel. When all else has failed, they just go anti-Semitism, Old Faithful. You know, ridiculous.
That there is clear evidence that is intentionally doing. What are you, anti-Semitic? Now I'm going to bring up a clip of Israel's lawyer desperately trying to defend Israel from the charges, incredibly well evidenced, that it is systematically using Gazan civilians as human shields. This is something that has been evidenced by dozens of testimonies of the victims, by clear photo and video evidence of it occurring, and by Israeli soldiers themselves who have come forward to say that the practice is happening. Think about the checklist that I went over and see which tactic you can see being used here.
I'm guessing you already know that they're using like Gazan civilians to scope out tunnels and buildings, right?
Yeah, I know that, yeah. Or at least the Haaretz article said that, so yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a top-down thing, so it is policy. It's not just the accountability thing. Right?
Is that like, is that actually...
The person speaking had a baby in the background, that's where the noise is coming from, okay.
Actually their military policy, though? Because I thought one of the problems there was that soldiers eventually were refusing to do it because of the unlawful order.
There were some that didn't want to do it, but it was still like the commander issuing the orders, and it's a pretty open secret in the IDF, and it has been done before in other wars.
Yeah, so you're saying a commander did it, but a commander obviously is not particularly high up in the chain of command. Like, is it the case that is it still the case that it's their IDF policy? Like, it's the policy from like the chief of staff, though?
Another reason you shouldn't breed. They're just annoying, noisy pricks. Babies. Although I haven't seen either my nephews or my niece in a few days, and I'm starting to Jones just a little bit. Smidge. Just a tiny little bit. Not enough to do anything about it at this stage. Because I know one of them will fucking ring up and be like, oh, can you take care of them for a couple of hours? So, you know, because it's the weekend. Is that baby Hamas? Almost certainly. Amsterdamas? Is that a thing? That could be a thing. Let's make that a thing. What a meme.
No, or is it like commanders are doing it, but people are turning a blind eye? Because that's like my argument. My argument is that people are getting away with committing crimes because there's not going to be accountability, but it still doesn't negate the fact that their training even tells them not to do that. Their training tells them if you get an unlawful order, you're supposed to disobey.
So he's making the bad apples argument here, except not for individual soldiers, but for commanders. You know, the fact that there are individual soldiers who are refusing this order and going to the media to complain about it indicates that it is in fact systemic, that it is in fact policy, because it is coming from the commanders, and it is only a few individual soldiers who have denounced it. That is the exact opposite of a few bad apples. But he nonetheless tries to make that argument because nothing else occurs to him. I'm eagerly awaiting the sequel to this argument. It's just a few bad prime ministers. Like, half of his arguments are...
It is, yeah. Yeah, like, when the next Zionist evil bastard takes over and does similar things, will they still try this shit? Almost certainly.
These clearly systemic practices that have been repeated time and time again in a clear pattern of conduct that is simply undeniable are somehow not indicative of Israeli policy, of Israel's goal.
I'm loath to comment too much on the Mao thing in chat because that's not really a thing I studied. But, like, also fuck Mao, I guess. Can we get some lols in chat for Mao being dead? I do it for every other tyrant, so, you know.
In this so-called war, of why they're there in the first place, and why they are doing what they are doing. While we're on that note, let's go over one final clip. It is his reaction to Mehdi Hassan going over a laundry list of Israel's genocidal crimes that they have committed in the last year.
I don't understand how we're debating this more than 40,000 deaths later. I don't understand how we're still debating this sitting in the comfort of New York, 7,000 miles away from a place that the UN Secretary General has called hell on earth. Justified? Justified? Was Israel justified in carrying out one of the most intense civilian punishment campaigns in history, according to Dr. Robert Pape at the University of Chicago, dropping 500-pound bombs, 1,000-pound bombs, 2,000-pound bombs on schools, hospitals, universities, bookstores, libraries, mosques, churches, refuge...
I said, can we get some fucking lulls in chat for Mao being dead? That is an order. Although I did phrase it as a question, to be fair. But still. Do you think it's the case that false consciousness is just insurmountable? I think that's what I was actually thinking when I made the comment work class when I was there. I don't think false consciousness is insurmountable. I don't think it is insurmountable. And ultimately, I need to believe it's not insurmountable. Because if I didn't, I'd go fucking mad. So even if it were insurmountable, I could never bring myself to believe it was insurmountable. Which is like, it sounds mad because like the truth it matters. Of course it fucking does. But if the truth is that hideous, it would drive me insane.
Camps, apartment buildings, cemeteries, destroying a higher percentage of buildings in northern Gaza than the Allies destroyed in Dresden during World War II, reducing Gaza to 42 million tons of rubble while they got people out of the way. How is that justified? Dropping a bomb, for example, on a 6-story apartment building in central Gaza last October, killing more than 100 people inside, including more than 50 children, with no Hamas target in sight, according to Human Rights Watch, with no explanation offered by the Israeli military. Even till today, was that justified, Elon? Was Israel justified in telling people to go to safe zones and then bombing them and killing them in those safe zones? According to NBC, there were 7 deadly airstrikes between January and April in areas that the Israeli military had specifically designated as safe zones, killing Palestinian civilians like Sabrine Sakani, who was 30 weeks pregnant at the time. She was killed in a safe zone in April. Her little baby, newborn baby, died less than a week later. Was that justified too, Elon? Was Israel justified in killing a record number of kids in Gaza, 16,000 children?
You've gone very quiet, Lonerbox. You're going to have to decide, mate, or is your conscience screaming at you right now because of the things that he's describing? Maybe.
Turning Gaza into what the UN has called a graveyard for children, according to Save the Children, killing more kids in the first 3 weeks that were killed globally in each of the past 4 years, killing little kids like 6-year-old Hind Rajab and her 15-year-old sister Layan, firing 335 bullets into the car they were in. 335 bullets. And then killing the 2 paramedics who went to try and rescue them. Was that justified too, Elon?
God damn it, Mehdi Hassan is good. If anyone knows Mehdi Hassan, just tell him he can use every part of me. He can fuck every single part of me till it's bloody and raw. The man is pure. He's too pure for this world.
Israel justified in killing a record number of aid workers in Gaza, right? A record number. Targeting again and again, systematically, car by car, according to Chef Jose Andres. A specifically, explicitly marked World Central Kitchen aid convoy killing 7 aid workers in the process. Was that justified? Was Israel justified in starving the people of Gaza, using food and water as a weapon of war, to quote both the EU and Oxfam? Was Israel justified in blocking aid trucks from going into Gaza simply because they carry things like...
I don't think Mehdi Hassan was a Corbyn hater. Unless I've missed something big there. I don't think he was. No. For people who like men, is Mehdi Hassan attractive? He is attractive, but I meant more specifically like the energy he gives off and the fact that he's so well spoken and erudite and he's got a lot of information to it. He's a clever, well spoken motherfucker. He can have me.
Crutches, nail clippers, and even chocolate croissants, according to the Washington Post. Was Israel justified in raping, sodomizing Palestinian detainees who were charged with no crimes whatsoever? Putting hot rods up their rectums. Amputating their limbs, according to CNN and the New York Times. Was that rape and torture justified, Elon? Israel, according to the ICC chief prosecutor, who put out a statement calling for the arrest of Elon's former boss, Benjamin Netanyahu, said that Israel may have military goals, legitimate goals, but the way they're carried out, killing innocent people, starving people, is criminal, he said. Criminal, think about that. Elon Levy is a former spokesperson for a man who the ICC chief prosecutor once arrested for war crimes. Elon himself has produced a number...
Wow, what a response so far. We've had, woo. Okay. I'm expecting something a little more substantive at some stage. Would you like to have Mehdi Hassan on the show? I would literally fucking murder a pigeon in cold blood to get Mehdi Hassan on the show. Or indeed not do that, because it's really fucking weird. That would be a very weird thing.
Friedland started.
Mehdi Hassan is a sack of shit, according to Norman Finkelstein. Okay, let's have a look.
Say that the Labour Party is rife with anti-Semitism. Before you knew it, who joined in with Jonathan Friedland? Who joined in? Mehdi Hassan. They wrote a joint letter in which they said, and now I'm quoting us, both of us have condemned Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party for its failure to tackle anti-Jewish racism. Subsequently, Mehdi Hassan...
I love the way he's making it more ethnic than it needs to be. Mehdi Hassan. He's not actually Turkish. You don't need to,
Filled with torment, filled with pain, consumed by guilt, says, I reluctantly have to conclude, I don't see how else I can conclude anything, except that Corbyn is an anti-Semite. Or, I'm paraphrasing him now, so I quote him. He cites a piece in one of the British periodicals, which said, quote, I gave Corbyn the benefit of the doubt and anti-Semitism. I can't anymore. And then Mehdi Hassan says, who, like me, has defended Corbyn up until now, but like me, struggles to defend his quote-unquote Zionist remarks that have emerged from 2013. this sack of shit opportunist. Because what could be more useful to the British as they try to discredit Corbyn as being an anti-Semite than to get a Muslim on board? Because supposedly Jeremy was partial to Muslims. And here comes along a Muslim who says, I have to admit, I'm so reluctant to have to admit it, I have no choice. Jeremy Corbyn, he's an anti-Semite.
He doesn't need to speak that slowly. When he wants to get a bit of pace up, he sounds almost human.
That was so despicable that I went to my email and I sent Mehdi an email that just said, Et tu, Mehdi?
Mehdi!
The moment of truth. The moment of truth. Et tu, Mehdi? And he replied, he had no idea what I was talking about.
That is quite oblique. Like, to be fair, if you are writing to somebody about a specific topic, say, like, at least put in the title, your letter about Jeremy Corbyn. If you just say, ek tu, Mehdi, what the fuck is he supposed to... What? That could be about anything. Yeah, okay. This is just weird. It's Norman Finkelstein, of course it is.
This Oxford graduate who prides himself on his mastery of English, he couldn't understand et tu.
Well, Norman.
No, to be fair, I think he understood the reference, right? So it's et tu is like, oh, you too. So it's the thing that Caesar definitely did not actually fucking say, but he is said to have said in some historical accounts. And it's like, oh, you're doing this evil thing too. I didn't think that of you, right? I think he gets that, but if you don't tell somebody the context in which you're saying the thing, I don't think for a second you can expect them to understand it. That's really strange. This is a fake story. Norman can't use a computer. That's possibly true, yeah. Okay, anyway, that was Mehdi Hassan or some shit. Norman Finkelstein is weird. If Mehdi Hassan said that dumb shit, that's bad. Okay. Et tu, Mehdi. Et tu.
Number of lies, sorry, John, in service of those war crimes. He has a bunch of tweets still up tonight which say that babies were beheaded on October the 7th, babies were baked in ovens, babies were ripped from their mother's wombs.
Titty football!
October 7th was bad enough, but Elon had to exaggerate it for atrocity purposes. Those tweets are still up. Why would you trust anything that...
I feel like we need to have a titty football emote, but it can't be too titty because of the terms of service. I think. People don't normally understand you when you quote 500-year-old plays. Well, exactly, yeah. It's a bit weird. It's a bit weird. Yeah. Also, if someone can be bothered and go back and clip Sneakcrest earlier going, I fucking hate liberals, because that was definitely caught on my audio, and that would be a very funny like noise alert thing.
This man says to you tonight. Look, he's here. He's here. He's here to gaslight you, to defend the indefensible, to excuse the inexcusable, to justify the unjustifiable, but you don't.
Yeah, et tu brute was what Shakespeare has him say, yeah. Yeah. Thucydides nuts. That's amazing. Anyway, no, but he definitely didn't actually say that. In fact, most of the things that people think actually happened in that story are just from Shakespeare. Later on at the funeral, the friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. That's not real. That didn't actually happen. Shakespeare made that up. It's a brilliant piece of writing, but it's not true. It didn't actually happen. And the thing is, we know what actually he said. or at least what he's chronicled to have said. Whether any of it's fucking true, who knows? But like, we know what the historians of the time wrote that he said, and it wasn't anything like that. In fact, it was like, it was both way more tame and way more threatening, which sounds like an odd combination of things, but it's sort of true. What's that?
Harley, you sucking your titty? Aw. You sucking that titty, aren't you?
Is that an actual titty? What? That dog's face
Harley.
has so many wrinkles on it. Amazing.
Need to. Tonight you can choose to be on the side not of cruelty, not of criminality, but on the side of the innocent people of Gaza who are being killed as we speak tonight, as we speak, by Elon's former colleagues in the Israeli military on the orders of Elon's former bosses in the Israeli government. So yes, I choose to oppose this horrific and homicidal motion.
I think the problem is that if you want to get, I'm trying to think of like how you would illustrate what's wrong with what Mehdi's saying. Is let's assume that every case that Mehdi put forward was true. When he talks about particular incidents like the WCK bombing or the person who was the child who was shot while they were in a car or like all this kind of stuff. So if they're talking about that, then it's kind of like saying that doesn't really, you could just argue none of that actually says whether or not the broad military campaign is justified or not. You understand that, right?
So apparently...
Oh my fucking god, so that's it? I was expecting at the end of this he would have to have some kind of actual comeback, and it isn't. Because Mehdi Hassan literally already addressed that. He said in the thing that the head of the ICJ said that Israel has legitimate, or may have legitimate military targets, but that what it's doing is criminal. So he literally already addressed your non-point anyway. Like, and he listed off a fucking plethora of war crimes which you have just singularly ignored and refused to even try and counteract in any way whatsoever. You have no response to the litany of war crimes that Mehdi Hassan, Mehdi, to quote the great Norman Finkelstein. And they use the word great entirely sarcastically there. Yeah, that list of war crimes that you've just got nothing for is this. You don't need to worry about it, do you? It's fine. It's not an issue.
The fact that Israel is clearly systematically committing war crimes, crimes against humanity, pretty much every international crime that you could ever think of, on a mass scale, patterns that make it clear that they are there in order to do what they are literally doing. We, however, cannot judge their so-called military campaign by what they are doing. The fact that they are doing these things says nothing about whether them doing those...
I believe Caesar and Kaiser do have the same linguistic root, yes. Although, interestingly, so we know that Caesar is not the root for Caesarean, as in Caesarean section. Because we know he wasn't born of a Caesarean section. The operation did happen at the time that Caesar was around, but the mother always died. There was no way of saving the mother if it was performed. And we know that his mother lived well into her dotage. She died when he was in her 30s, I believe. And Caesar comes from Caesarean comes from Caesar, which means to cut or to slice in ancient Latin. What's this?
And I also think a lot of young people are also fed up with very super progressive attitudes. I think the Democrats, Joe, going back to your initial question, and you may disagree with this, I think they need to move to the center. I think they're the
What
center.
does that mean, though? When you say they need to move to the center, what do they need? Are you saying that they should
fucking
not
hate
support
liberals?
Yes. Oh, and again.
And I also think a lot of young people are also move to the center. I think the
What does that mean, though? When you say they need to move to the center, what do they need? Are you saying that they should
Fucking
not
hate
support?
liberals.
Yes. That's the shit. That's the shit. Oh, that gets fucking shared. I'm having that. Boom. That's getting Facebooked. Fuck yeah, baby.
Things is actually justified or not. Apparently, in order to deduce why Israel is doing what it is doing in Gaza, we can't look at what it's doing in Gaza. You know, like destroying 60% of all buildings in the territory, many of them...
Who was that? That was the editor, or the producer, whatever, of Normal Island. Rohak, you may have come in late. That's fine. I accept your tardiness. I was on Normal Island earlier, and the producer was a person called Sneakrit, who's a lovely northern lady. Anyway, yeah, we were doing the thing, and like, so that when you hear her say that, we can hear it on this stream because it's literally the chat that's can be heard in the room that they're using. But like, his stream couldn't hear her say that, but my stream could. So I picked her up going, "Fucking hate liberals." It made me giggle. I had to mute myself because I literally started fucking laughing. Lovely stuff.
Through literal controlled demolitions, schools, mosques, churches, museums, all destroyed intentionally, massacring endless scores of civilians with numbers that are simply impossible to achieve unless it is being done intentionally. We apparently can't look at that and say, yeah, they're there because they want to kill the civilians. That's why they're killing them. They're there because they want to expel the civilians. That's why they are expelling them. They're destroying every single building there because they want to destroy it. Because they want to destroy Gaza. No, 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 no. You can't do that. Why? He just sort of decided you can't. That really is all there is to it. That's his argument. And that is aside from, you know, all of the undeniable statements, plans, etc. coming from the Israeli state that make it very clear that this is what they want to do from the very beginning, and it's what they have been doing, and that they are going to continue to be doing it, like their leaked plans to do.
And I'm sure they'll absolutely, the same fucking Hasbro cunts will defend the naked land grab as well, because reasons. Just reasons.
Exactly what they are doing, which filtered out already in October 2023, people at the highest levels of government outright saying that that is what they are doing. They openly discussed plans to build concentration camps in Gaza, which the survivors will be hoarded into for threat of death if they try to leave. The Israeli military just openly declaring today, as I film this video, that they have no intention to allow the residents of the northern Gaza Strip to return to their homes, and that anyone in the entire northern half of Gaza is not a civilian who they can just freely kill. Ignore all of that, right? Or try to frame it as if it's not indicative of broad Israeli policy, you know, just a few fringe crazies like, you know, the prime minister of the country, the defense minister, the top brass of the IDF, you know, who are those people, right? That's just a couple of bad apples. It's incoherent. It's incredibly stupid. They make themselves look like massive dumbasses and horrid people, all because they have committed themselves to defending the clearly indefensible. Lonerbox has a particular...
That's the thing. It's because it's like sunk cost fallacy or some shit. They've gone so far down this Hasbro line that they now find it impossible to row back. So they just have to keep doubling down and tripling down on like demonstrably evil, indefensible ghoulishness.
Particular disdain for Mehdi Hassan, by the way. You
Mehdi.
can see that in this clip.
I will
Mehdi.
happily support this pin because I support the release of all the hostages and let me finish. And I support the release of thousands of Palestinian detainees being raped and tortured and children. Do you support that? Let's wear it together. Do you support the release? Do you support the release of Palestinians? I do not support, the release of Palestinian children. Do you support the release of Palestinian children?
Does he why is he? Oh God, what a fucking creep, man. Again, you can talk about the unlawfulness of the imprisoning, but like the Palestinians who are imprisoned in Israeli centers are not imprisoned like randomly.
Children. He literally mentioned children. There are fucking
thousands of Palestinian detainees being raped and tortured and children. Do you support?
Yeah, it's not good. It's really not good.
So, Mehdi Hassan mentions that Palestinians are being kidnapped from Gaza by the IDF, put into concentration camps in Israel, and then systematically starved, tortured, and mass raped. A practice that we mostly know about because many of the torture and rape victims were released without any charge, showing that even Israel thinks that they were innocent of whatever it is that Israel initially accused them of. Lonerbox's immediate reaction to this is to laugh. He smiles, he laughs, he's like, oh my god, not this bullshit again. And then he goes on to say that the tortured and raped prisoners, including children, as Mehdi Hassan specifically mentioned children...
Will you stop mispronouncing Mehdi's name, please?
...had it coming. They deserved it. Israel wouldn't just torture and rape anyone, right?
The Palestinians who are imprisoned in Israeli centers are not imprisoned, like, randomly.
You notice how he called Mehdi Hassan a creep for mentioning that?
Do you support the release of Palestinian children?
Why is he... Oh, God, what a fucking creep, man.
As if his own position is not accurately defined as one that can only come from a creep. The disdain for Hassan is palpable, and the reason for that is pretty simple. Mehdi Hassan drives liberal Zionists like this absolutely mad, because he's essentially what they pretend to be. Hassan has a long history of being a partisan for Western imperialism, of denouncing any resistance against it, including Palestinian resistance to Israel. He never would have been allowed anywhere near the prominent mainstream media positions that he's held throughout his career if that wasn't the case. However, when Hassan sees something so clearly indefensible, so overwhelmingly well evidenced, like Israel's Gaza genocide, he's not hyper committed to defending Israel no matter what, so he's still able to point to Israel's obvious crimes and call a spade, but liberal Zionists like Lonerbox, like Destiny, are hyper committed to defending Israel, no matter what. So when guys like Hassan, who otherwise share their professed liberal ideology, don't mince words about the fact...
I don't know why he's like shitting on Mehdi Hassan there. Sorry, Mehdi Hassan. Like Lonerbox, you're just a... Not Lonerbox, sorry. Bad Empanada's just a fucking creep. Just a little mutant boy.
Acts of what Israel is doing don't act as if they are Israel's lawyer. It exposes them as what they really are, not the humanistic, critical thinking progressives that they like to present themselves as, but rather partisans for a genocidal, ethno-nationalist, settler colonial project whose nature as such was already very difficult for them to argue against or skirt around beforehand, but which is now impossible for them to plausibly deny, as Israel's genocidal actions, broadcast to the world in vivid, horrific detail, have finally made everything...
Yeah, it's called the Overton window, yes.
...so clear that even a liberal like Mehdi Hassan refuses to accept their bullshit anymore.
Sorry, I was responding to someone in YouTube chat then.
People are abhorrent, disgusting genocide propagandists. Everyone already knew that about...
True, but like you don't get to call that out though, really. Or at least not with good moral standing, because like... You've said it would be okay to kill all Israelis, which is like a bit genocide-y as well. Like, I'm against all people who pick and choose their genocides. I think that's bad, actually. I think we should oppose, and just stay with me here, right? I think we should oppose 100% of genocides. Hot take. Hot take, I know. Cancel me if you will. But I personally think we should be morally consistent and oppose all and any genocides. Because genocide, and again, hot take incoming, genocide is bad, actually. I'm gonna get cancelled now. I'm gonna get cancelled. I was too spicy, I know.
About Destiny, but if you've only been exposed to Lonerbox through his main channel content, you might not have known that about him. As I said, his ideology is one called liberal Zionism. It's one that I have spoken about before in a video of mine, which I made more than a year before October 7th and the Gaza genocide. If you would like more information about how people like him use the false idea that they are pro-Palestinian when they are very clearly anti-Palestinian and pro-Israel to pull in people who are sympathetic to the Palestinian cause, but who don't know quite enough about it to realize that it's all an act and that they are being conned into eventually...
What about if we found a planet full of Nigel Farage? Well, Nigel Farage isn't human, so that wouldn't be genocide. It would be species-side. It would be gammon-side. But you have to be human for it to count as genocide, really. I think that's how it works. What in the? I mean, I'm annoyed that even though it looks nothing like me, I know it's supposed to be me. I'm annoyed with myself that I recognise that as me. And it's not. It's not at all. I don't even own a shirt that says This is Democracy Manifest. Although, I do want to own a shirt that says that. Is this me as the Bored Ape Yacht Club? Is this... Because someone suggested... Oh, no, I suggested, didn't I? That someone should make me a Bored Ape. So thank you, Elliot, for making the Bored Kev Yacht Club. God almighty. Oh, you people. You delightful bastards. Much love to you.
Eventually becoming Zionists themselves and nodding along to the kind of genocide justifying propaganda that we've gone over here, then you should check out that video that I made on the matter, which is very long but nonetheless goes over it in depth.
Oh, Seamstress Dragon. Oh, okay, apologies. Oh, well, you posted it, so I don't... Yeah, okay. But anyway, yes, it is the magnum opus. The magnificent octopus of their work.
And uses Loner Box specifically as an example of this phenomenon. I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent here about liberal Zionism and what it is. I feel like you might have already gotten the gist from this video, but yeah, if you want more of an in-depth look at it, I suggest you check out that video. Point is, don't be duped by these people. They have shown their whole ass. It was already obvious to me as someone who is very well versed on this topic beforehand, before the Gaza genocide, but now it is absolutely undeniable. You simply cannot watch people like this making those sorts of arguments and seriously argue that they are not simply anti-Palestinianists, interested in doing whatever part they can to spread propaganda and enable an ongoing genocide to continue. We can only hope that a day where these people will be held to account, brought to justice for their clear-as-day genocide propaganda will come. Thanks for watching. Free Palestine. Thanks for watching. If you like this video...
I didn't like that video. It had some good stuff in it, but it's a... Oh, shithouse! Oh, no, no. Yeah, it had some good stuff in there, but like it's bad empanada, so fuck that guy. I mean, fuck all of them. All three of the people mainly featured in that video, so Bad Empanada, Des Tiny, and Loner Box can all go and fuck themselves. Such is life. Look at that flag. Exactly. That was in Madrid of all places. That was at the Atletico game. Which is fucking dope. I mean, it's massive. I'd kind of be annoyed. Like, okay. Just a little gripe as a football fan. There are thousands of people stuck underneath the flag. Look, just... Look, I want to watch the fucking... I want to see what's happening. I didn't enter the stadium to look at the back of a flag. I know I'm slightly missing the point. I'm, you know what I mean? I'm burying the lead on this one. But, like, I want to be underneath a flag. I want to watch the players warm up or whatever, you know. I want to look at the night sky, the twinkling stars. I didn't come here to be a fucking flag support. God damn it. Anyway, on that I mean, I'm not going to say bombshell because that would be inappropriate given the circumstances, I think. But I thought it was PSG. Was it? I don't fucking know. I thought it was Atletico Madrid. Hang on. I should probably find out. Massive Palestine flag, I guess. Let's have a look. Okay, massive Palestine flag. Champions League. It was Champions League. Don't say it was fucking. Oh, it was Paris. Apologies. Yeah, sorry, it was, yeah, okay, so it was at Paris Saint-Germain, and it was against Atletico Madrid. So I had the right team, but the wrong ground. There you go. Yes. It's called a tifo, Kev. What, the big flag? Anyway. I'm gonna fuck off. I'll be back probably tomorrow, although the Blues are at home, so it's possible I might go and get very drunk and not do a show. I don't fucking know. Thank you everyone for your support. It means the flipping world to me. Who is going that I can send everyone over to? James from the Mother Cunting Internet's going. I'll send you over there. Go and say hello to Jimmy Bob. That, I don't know why I've called him that. Spam is he not going anymore? What? Did he just go off or something? Because oh, he did just go off. Jesus Christ! What timing that was. Amaze balls. Is he not going anymore? What? Okay, well, I need to send you over somewhere else then. Hannah Reloaded is streamed in a couple of times, so we'll go over to Hannah. Go and say hello to Hannah. Do the spam the Democracy Manifest meme at Hannah for no real reason other than it's a funny meme. This is a funny emote. It's very amusing. And I'll see you possibly tomorrow. If not, it'll be probably Sunday, I imagine. Yeah. Stay beautiful. Free Palestine.